It's time for Intelligent Machines. Our guest today, Gary Marcus. He is an expert in AI, writes an AI Substack newsletter, and is also a little bit skeptical about AGI. We'll get to talk to Gary and then give you all the AI news, including $200 billion expenditure on an AI center for Meta, the Turing Award recipients who are also AI experts warning about the future, and the return of Digg. It's all coming up next on I Am.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Intelligent Machines with Paris Martineau and Jeff Jarvis. Episode 809, recorded Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. Fun Mustache. It's time for Intelligent Machines, the show where we talk about intelligent machines. They're all around us, you know. Jeff Jarvis is here, Professor Emeritus of Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, now at Montclair State University and SUNY Stony Brook. Hello, Jeff.
Hello, boss. Also
from The Information, the wonderful Paris Martineau, where she covers youth issues and other things. What are you working on right now?
I'm working on a story about Section 230 and other federal online safety bills that involve children.
Good. You know the right thing to say about that, right?
Of course.
Okay, I'm just... it's unsaid, you know. I'm just going to rub my nose and say, you know what to say, right? You know what to say.
We love 230.
Yeah, you know what to say. So
you know who doesn't love 230? The politicians. Anyway, continue.
The new format of this show, as we've shifted from This Week in Google to something more interesting, AI, is to start with an interview. We'll do AI news and other news later, but I always think that the interview is kind of the heart and soul of this. We've talked to AI accelerationists. We've talked to people, working in the business. We've got a great guest with us right now. Gary Marcus's newsletter, Marcus on AI, makes him a leading AI expert. I know it says so on the screen. He is also a psychologist and cognitive scientist. Written a number of books. His latest is very germane, Taming Silicon Valley, How We Can Ensure That AI Works for Us. Gary, it's great to have you on. I'm a regular reader of the Substack. And
thanks for having me.
And you are, and we should, I guess an AI, is it fair to say contrarian?
You could say that. I love AI, but I don't like the way it's happening now. And if that makes me a contrarian, then you can call me a contrarin.
This is why I'm so happy you're on, Gary.
Welcome balance the podcast.
Enough of the.
We've had multiple episodes of Leo thanking guests, being like, "Your products are making the world a better place. Everyone go out and buy it." So we need a thinker.
One.
Here.
We did one like that. Okay, just one.
Oh, it felt a little bit longer than one.
But we do have AI. Last week I thought Stephen Wolfram was very good and he's sensible great about AI. Next week, Ray Kurzweil, who coined the term intelligent machines, he's probably a little more bullish on AI than you are.
I offered to debate him, and he said when we talked at TED he would do it, and then I got the venue lined up, and he disappeared on me. So tell him I'd still love to do that.
I will.
Who else? You've also offered to debate Elon.
He never responded.
Who else?
There's a long list.
You should offer to wrestle Elon or get in the octagon.
I don't do case.
Who would be your top person to debate?
Guess it depends on what one's trying to accomplish with such a debate. I mean, one of the reasons I've offered to debate a lot of these people is to try to hold them accountable to the things that they say in public and that they don't really want to defend against intellectual discourse. So that includes the exaggerations of Elon and the exaggerations of Sam, and maybe Ray, although I don't think he's as central to that discourse anymore. But a lot of my offer to debate has been to try to get people to stand by the claims that they make.
There's a lot of hype. There's no question.
A lot of hype.
Are there any particular people or businesses that, I guess off this topic, that you think are the biggest hype spewers or need to be held accountable the most in this moment?
He named two of them.
It's a crowded list, but OpenAI is historically been at the top of that list. I think that they've weaponized hype the most of any of these companies. They've hyped their mission as being for the benefit of humanity, which they haven't really done. They've hyped their stuff as being about AGI, but we can all see the GPT 4.5 isn't really that. I mean, I think I would put them at the top of the list, but other people have learned that hype is the way to drive up stock valuation. So I think Dario Amodei has learned that. Of course, Elon has done that for a long time. It's become standard practice because the media doesn't, in general, hold people accountable. They just look at the next promise and the next promise. And the older promises, when they're not met, nobody really holds anybody accountable.
We should mention that you have founded machine learning startups. You sold your first to Uber. So you have worked in the field. Quite famously, you signed that letter in 2023 that said, let's stop for 6 months. Looking back, obviously we didn't. Elon signed that letter as well. Looking back, would you still like us to pause?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because that letter was about pausing the development of GPT-5, and it turns out that, how long is it now, 18 months later or something?
You didn't have to write that letter.
We didn't have to write that letter because they couldn't figure out how to make GPT-5 anyway. The reason that I didn't write the letter, but the reason I signed it and helped publicize it, even though I didn't think it was a perfect letter, was I thought we needed to call attention to how fast things were moving and how little we understood about how to make AI safe and reliable and so forth. And we still haven't figured out how to make AI safe and reliable. For a while, I think the letter had a good positive consequence. It got all the governments to start thinking about what we should do about AI. And then there was this Paris AI summit and change in regime in Washington, and I think everything fell apart. So for a little while, it had a salutary effect. I think the most depressing part is that Elon signed that letter and immediately started building XAI, which was trying to do basically the same thing as GPT-5 was supposed to do. He also failed to get there so far.
After Elon signed it, it felt like all the attention was, oh, you see, Elon wants to pause so he can catch up.
Which turned out to be true, which, kind of undermined the movement, so to speak, as they used to call it in the 60s.
The letter called it an existential threat. Do you still believe that AGI
I never liked that phrase, to be honest.
Yeah.
So, and I can't remember the exact wording that the letter had around that. It was softer on that than some of the people who wrote it typically are, and that made me a little bit more inclined to write about it. In my Substack, I actually wrote a bunch about the letter at the time. I don't think that AI is going to annihilate us all, or I think that's at least pretty unlikely. But I worry a lot about what bad actors are doing, both with current AI, which is not very sophisticated, and what they might do with future AI as it gets more sophisticated. And I think the so-called alignment problem, figuring out how to get machines to do the things that we want them to do, is entirely unsolved. We can't even do things like say, hey, don't make shit up. Machines make stuff up anyway. It's actually in the system prompt for one of these Apple systems, don't make stuff up, and it makes stuff up anyway. So we don't have very good control of large language models. They just kind of do what they do, and you throw more data and you hope for the best. And that's really not a good way to do engineering.
You've talked about the Pareto principle, that 80% is easy. It's the last 20% that's hard. And we're really actually seeing that right now with AI.
We're totally seeing that. You can make a demo of anything if you have enough data. That's kind of the lesson the last couple of years. But to make it really good is very hard. We saw that movie before with driverless cars, right? We have demos. We have demos in San Francisco. We have demos in Phoenix. But if you live in Buffalo, this stuff is of no use to you, right? So it's very easy to make a demo of some AI thing by having a lot of examples. The 80-20 is you get examples for 80% of what you want to do, and the other 20% you don't really have exactly in your database, and the systems don't exactly work. And that's been a serious, serious problem. You may have seen me use the phrase the other day in a piece that I wrote about Kevin Roos had a New York Times thing about how we're not going to be needing, or how amateurs are going to be able to code using these tools without knowing anything about coding. And the way I used it there is I said, look, you can get 80% of any system you want, and you kind of get a demo of it, but actually getting it to work reliably is very hard to get that last 20%.
Gary, I've got a weird question for you. What's more dangerous, the reality of AI where it stands today, or the hype around it? You have done a lot trying to puncture the definitionless phrases like AGI and superintelligence and all that. And that seems to lead to a lot of the danger, it strikes me, rather than the machines where they stand. And you said you love AI. AI can do some neat things, but it's being presented in such a way that it's overblown, no?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's real danger on both sides. I'm not sure how I come out on the ledger. Let me just think it through. So the danger of current AI are things like bias, which are very serious, especially when you have something like Elon trying to use Doge to evaluate who should keep jobs. And we know these systems are biased against white males, which is actually what they want.
Biased towards white males.
Towards white males. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
They're biased towards white males. And
they wouldn't be using it if it were biased against white
exactly.
males.
Sorry, it's important speech error there. So, he's probably comfortable with a bias towards white males. I'm not, obviously. So you have problems like that. You have problems where these things are used for cybercrime, and we may see some massive cybercrime hit this year. And if a whole bunch of infrastructure goes down because of cybercrime, then we're going to say, those consequences were pretty serious. So there's some unknowables. There's misinformation. People want to say it didn't affect the last election, but I don't really think that's true. I think that misinformation was a subtext to the election. It may get worse. The tools for making deepfakes keep getting better, et cetera. So you have all those kinds of risks. Another risk, I think, is that we screw up society by spending so much on the large language models, ripping up the environment and so forth. Mm-hmm. Then there's a kind of opportunity cost that I worry about, which comes from the hype, which is you have these large language models, and we're already, not society, but big businesses have put in $500 billion on them and want to put in more. And probably we should be looking at other approaches to AI. So something that not everybody knows about me is I actually want AI to work. I think the caricature of me is, Gary hates AI, but that's not true. I'm actually constantly writing about how could we do AI better such that we could trust it, so that it could be reliable, so that it could help more in medicine and so forth. And if we just keep dumping all of our eggs in the LLM basket, large language model basket, then we're missing some opportunity to make better AI. So I don't know if there's an easy answer to your question, but I think it's a good question. A similar question is AI on balance so far been a net positive to society or a net negative to society? So, there are positives, like you can use these tools for brainstorming, coders write a little bit faster. And then there are negatives, like all the things that I just laid out. And it's not totally clear how that balance works. And it's not totally clear where that balance will be in 5 years. I would say that when I first started having debates about these, people would be like, it's going to, 10x everybody's productivity and blah, blah, blah. And you look at the GDP and it's hardly moved at all. I mean, even Satya, acknowledged this a week or two ago. There's been no real change in the GDP. So the notion that it was going to revolutionize the world certainly has not transpired yet. And the notion that a lot of deepfake porn was going to make a lot of trouble for a lot of teenage girls has transpired. So these are all moving targets and so forth. But I would say the productivity gains have actually been relatively modest. It's still very much a gamble on the future, and there are some real risks. And then there are the risks of could some terrorist use this stuff to make bioweapons? The answer seems to be probably yes. There are rate limiting steps and so forth. It's complicated. But you balance all this out, it's really not clear. It's not a clear win. It's not an absolutely clear loss. When you add in the environmental impact, you start to worry. Then you can say, well, maybe DeepSeek will make it more efficient. It's all still in play. There's no clear benefit, and there's no absolutely clear negative. I mean, let me say that slightly more clearly. There are some clear benefits. There's some clear cost. It's not yet clear what how it all nets out.
I would submit, though, that you could say that about many technologies. You could have said that about the internet. You could have said that about social media. You could have said that about the atomic bomb.
Print.
That's kind of the nature of new technologies, isn't it?
It is, and it's why we have to be careful about how we use those technologies, how we distribute them, what we do with them. So, atomic weapons, it's still a very complicated thing, and our view about that could change. It was an old T-shirt, I think, said one nuclear bomb can ruin your whole day. We don't, the
I used to wear that T-shirt.
Could change, right?
And I had the poster that said war is not good for our children and other living things as well.
Yeah, that was another great one. And so, I don't know the final answer. When history is, written.
Well, that's the problem, right?
Yeah, and social media, I'm willing to go out on a limb and say it sucks. It really wasn't a great thing. I'm sorry that I'm addicted to it, and I think it's.
But we're a little farther
of
down the
harm.
road with it, so it's easy to say that in hindsight. You can look that, but we're in the early days of AI.
When I was testifying in the Senate, and we were talking about Section 230, this was about almost 2 years ago. Everybody in the room said, "Hey, we really up with social media," and everybody means senators. A bunch of senators said, we fucked up with social media. We should do better here, and we should get rid of Section 230. And of course, we didn't get rid of Section 230. And they said we should do something about AI, and they didn't do anything about AI. And so, we all know that Section 230 empowered social media too much and sponsored made it attractive to the companies to spread misinformation. That was bad. Right. I think we know that. Yeah, but
Gary, that's the whole point, is that a lot of technologies are double-edged swords, and you can focus on the negative as well as the positive.
All do use. I mean,
without Section 230, we wouldn't have a chat room. We wouldn't have forums. This personally, Twit, my company, would not have a Mastodon instance because we couldn't afford the liability. So there's pros and cons.
They're all double-edged. And in a rational world, we regulate things so that these double-edged swords, to minimize the downsides. So guns, let's say, are a double-edged sword. And one of the ways that we handle the downside is we have a bunch of regulations around who can use them, what background testing to do and so forth. We throw people in jail if they misuse them and so forth. But you have these people like Andreessen that want no regulation on AI at all.
Well, that's because we're not at the gun level. We're at we just invented gunpowder. Right? In terms of AI. And so you could be premature in regulation if you don't understand it. We held off on regulating the internet, I think probably rightly so, because we didn't know yet what it was going to be. And there was a certain...
I appreciate what you're saying. I think there's enough things we already know that we can do some of the regulation that we need to do. I think it's certainly the case that anything that we do has to vary over time, right? So any regulation that anybody ever writes tends to not be exactly right the first time, and you need variation. And so, for example, the EU AI Act has built into it a period of review. I think it's after 3 years or 5 years or whatever. And you've got to do that here. And we change regulation all the time. We used to do that at the national level when Congress actually worked. We don't so much anymore now that it doesn't work. But we used to do that fairly regularly. And certainly any rational notion of regulation of AI has to include the dynamics of change over time. And part of why social media has been so ineffective is because Congress has, basically failed to function for whatever it is, the last 10 years or something like that. And so even when it became apparent that it wasn't exactly working right, that you needed some kind of midstream course correction, nobody could actually get it done.
Eris, you were trying to...
Oh, I was just going to comment to Leo's point about, AI is so nascent. Leo, you're always saying that AI is incredibly advanced. We're days, minutes away from AGI and a revolution. Does that not seem like a reasonable point in which to step back and think about how these technologies should and shouldn't be applied?
If you knew how to think about it, maybe, but I don't know if we know how to think about it. Do you think, for instance, Gary, that the EU's AI regulation is proper and works?
I mean, you can't answer whether it works yet because it hasn't really gone online yet. Is it proper? I think the spirit of it is correct. There's a lot of implementational details yet to be determined. There's a lot of political jockeying from the United States to try to weaken it, although U.S.-European relationships just took a giant turn for the worst. And so I don't know if the U.S. still has any leverage over Europe or not. We'll see.
Or vice versa.
The spirit of it is right, that you want to look at particular kinds of risks and you want to basically look out for human rights, that you want to make sure that humans are not screwed by giant companies and that there's some kind of balance, but that you also, allow innovation to prosper and so forth.
That's the trick, isn't it? That's the trick. And that's one of the things people worry about with the EU. And the California attempt to regulate AI is that you could actually kill the baby in the
Yeah, that was bullshit. I mean, look, if the California law had passed, then, a company like Google that has a certain number of, $1 trillion in market cap would have spent, an extra, let's say $10 million a year filling out paperwork. And no, it wouldn't have changed anything except that it would have given some sense of responsibility that they actually need to monitor the consequences of their actions and that they can be held liable for those actions. It also would have protected whistleblowers. And we have Sushir Balaji, who was, killed or I should say that more carefully.
We don't know what
under
happened.
mysterious circumstances that are still not entirely clear.
Yeah.
Having some protection for whistleblowers would be really great. And,
I agree.
And we didn't get it.
Yeah, there's something to do. But go ahead, but I want to get more philosophical before we lose our window with Gary, because he is a cognitive psychologist and he's written some very interesting things about language and stuff. But go ahead, we can continue on this line of questioning.
I just wanted to ask
a little more.
I've got to ask about AGI, because Gary, you've been involved in this obviously for much longer than the furor since ChatGPT came out. Was there a moment when you saw the trope of AGI emerge as the putative goal with no definition? You said, "Oy."
Yeah, that's interesting. So, the term goes back to like 2002 or something like that, 2005. Ben Goertzel, Shane Legg, who was one of the DeepMind founders, coined it. I have an interesting anecdote there, which is in 2018, I wrote an article called Deep Learning, a Critical Appraisal, which was on Archive. And I said, this stuff's not going to get you to AGI. And the stuff was models that are a predecessor to LLMs. LLMs were not really known at that point, but the general kind of ancestor to them was well known at that point. And I critiqued them and I said, they use too much data, they don't generalize very well, blah, blah, blah. Many of the same critiques that I and now Jan LeCun would make about large language models. And one of the reactions I got, and you can see this because I wrote an FAQ on all the grief that I got on this paper. I wrote it for Medium. One of the reactions I got is nobody's really trying to build AGI, which I thought was kind of bullshit at the time. I thought, a lot of people actually hoped to build AGI. They just weren't announcing it as that because they didn't know what they really had or whatever. But DeepMind had already said as their motto, first we solve intelligence, then we solve everything else. They were always gunning for AGI from the very beginning. And it was a very disingenuous reply to me in 2018. There's been a lot of disingenuous replies over the years, but it was a particularly disingenuous reply. They said, oh, nobody, you can't judge this stuff by the standards of AGI because nobody's working on that. And it was a lie then. It's just nobody wanted to admit that that's what they aspired to do. Now it's very trendy. Oh, we're working on AGI. The limitations haven't changed, but the attitude and the valuations of the company have changed. And so,
have you yet nailed down anyone to a definition of AGI?
That's also interesting. So in 2022, I think it was, I offered Elon a $100,000 bet, saying that this would be in my Substack, saying that AGI was not going to come anytime soon, wasn't going to come by the year 2029, as I recall. And I shopped the definition around on Twitter. I said, here's how I understand AGI, and I shopped it with Shane Legg and Ben Goertzel, who had originally coined the term, and Peter Voss doesn't quite get as much credit because he thought about it earlier and it was reincarnated or whatever. I ran it past all these guys and they were like, that's fine. What I said is, having the flexibility of human cognition and so forth, being able to do whatever people can do, and maybe better, right? So it would still be AGI if it was better than humans. And Lord knows humans have lots of flaws. I wrote a whole book about that called Kludge. So you can easily imagine intelligence that would be better. Already like chess computers are better at playing chess than we are, and calculators are better at doing math. So you can imagine a system that is basically equal to or better than us. And I emphasized flexibility, being able to do different tasks, not just because you train the entire internet, but because I give you an instruction like touch your nose and then touch your head, and from one trial you understand how to do that task. And so I put this out on Twitter. I said, this is the definition I got. Is it okay? And Shane said it was okay, and Ben said it was okay. And then I proposed some tasks. I said, you need to be able to do this by 2029. If you can do 3 out of the 5, we'll call it general intelligence. And everybody was fine with that definition in 2022. There really wasn't much pushback. If you look at the discussion on Twitter. And back then, there were more people in this field actually on Twitter. A lot of people fled for reasons we don't need to go into. And so everybody was totally fine with it. They're like, okay, that's a reasonable definition. These are reasonable tasks and so forth. And now, like, I don't know if you're putting that up on screen. Ezra Klein yesterday was kind of, backing down to maybe it's just doing a bunch of human tasks, which is a much weaker definition than we had talked about in 2022. And I have a whole article that I wrote, forgetting the name of it, showing all the ways in which people are trying to retrench. So, for example, instead of defining AGI in terms of human flexibility and cognition, it's very general, artificial general intelligence. That's what AGI is. Instead of doing that, they're like, well, if it makes a certain amount of money. Like, that's just a different definition. You can ask, does this technology make $100 billion? But then my iPhone is by definition AGI because it made $100 billion for Apple. And that just seems like a silly...
Why are we fighting? I don't understand why we're fighting over the semantics of what AGI is. I mean...
Oh, I'll tell you why. Because, there's multiple reasons. One of the biggest reasons is actually that Microsoft agreed to a crazy clause in their contract with OpenAI saying that OpenAI gets the IP back if they achieve AGI. So suddenly there's a lot of money at stake. So that's one reason. And then it's bragging rights. People want to say that the thing that they've got is AGI. There are people that want people like me to go away and say that it's been achieved, so stop, criticizing. I mean, there's a bunch of different reasons why. There's a lot of
it's not very pragmatic, though. I mean, if AI can do something valuable, I don't understand why we care about AGI. I understand why Microsoft
AI's been doing valuable things for a long time. So for example, Google search is AI, and it's been around 25 years. It's very valuable. I still probably use it, or I use a knockoff called DuckDuckGo, multiple times every day. GPS, I use in my car all the time. Those are AI. Nobody gets excited about them. They don't think that they're changing the world, but they're actually super useful. I find. I would sooner give up on ChatGPT than I would on GPS. I think, GPS is more useful to me because I can count on it and it's reliable.
Right. I'm curious, on a day-to-day basis, do you use any of the popular AI tools or?
No, the one programs? I probably use the most is just making images, which I do for fun and almost like satirically, to mock the AI. I don't trust them. And, my business is being right about AI at some level. And, if I make mistakes, I got a lot of pushback. If I use this stuff, it would be, a nightmare for my particular line of work. I understand there are businesses like where somebody needs to come up with marketing slogans and it may suit their purposes or something like that. It doesn't really suit my purposes. It's not trustworthy enough. I try to give the best reasoned argument about whatever it is that I, happen to write about a particular day or think about or whatever. And it doesn't do that. It gives you the sort of generic consensus average of anything that it writes about. It hallucinates, it makes up references. Like it'd be a nightmare for me to use it. I sometimes joke because I wrote my last book in 2 months, and people say, "Did you use ChatGPT to write it?" And I say, "I don't pay for sex, and I don't pay for ChatGPT."
Leo, you were going to get philosophical, and I stopped you.
I guess you have said that neural networks are not enough.
Yeah. And there was a survey just now showing that 85% of people at the AAAI Society were just surveyed agree with me. I mean, I wasn't mentioned, but agree that neural networks are not enough. That is a huge change from 3 years ago. I think a lot of people have come to see the light. They're not enough.
Yeah. Is there a technique that you think you mentioned symbolic AI as being one technique that could supplement neural networks? Yeah,
I mean, what I really favor is neurosymbolic AI, which would be a hybrid of classical symbolic AI, which just looks like computer programming, basically, and neural networks. So in computer programming, everything is explicit. You have clear variables. You do explicit operations. You do comparisons. You store them. You run subroutines and stuff like that. In neural networks, you run everything in the simplest version through this feed-forward similarity process where you have these weights and you add up the weights and so forth. They're very different techniques. They're not very compatible as they have been built, but I think we need to bring them together, and I think that's where the real action is.
And yet we have kind of made surprising strides with neural networks, in some ways unexpected results, no?
I mean, yes and no. Like, they do things people didn't imagine. That is true, but they still fail on the things that I was writing about in 1998 and 2001 when I was a lot less gray. They still fail at abstraction, at reasoning, at keeping track of properties of individuals. I first wrote about hallucinations in 2001. So the core things that I think you need in order to get to a trustworthy, reliable reasoning system that's at least as powerful as a person, we still have not really solved with the neural network architecture. So it is true, like deep search is impressive, or deep research is impressive, but then you look at the output and it has the same old problems. It still hallucinates stuff. So I used deep search and it told me there was so I asked it for all the cities that were, all the major cities that were west of Denver. And it forgot Billings, Montana. And so I said, what happened to Billings? And it told me there was an earthquake in Billings of 5.5 magnitude. And there wasn't a 5.5 magnitude earthquake. And so it misunderstood the question and it made up a hallucination. It made this beautiful chart, but the chart was wrong. It left out, a serious city with a population of whatever it was, 120,000. And so at some level, what I was saying in 2001 is if all you do is tabulate statistics and you don't have proper explicit representations like they used in classical AI, you are not going to get a trustworthy machine. And that is still true. It's a quarter century after I wrote that book.
I think Stephen Wolfram would agree with you. But the philosophical question I have, which may be unanswerable or may even be a stupid question, as a cognitive scientist, what is it that we do that's so different from what a machine is doing, or a neural network is doing, or an LLM is doing?
So my view about this is that the crudest way to think about it is Daniel Kahneman's System 1 and System 2, which most people know, right? So System 1 is kind of a statistical approximation. It's reflexive, it's automatic. And System 2 is more deliberative and more explicit. And humans actually use both. And there's actually tension in how we use them and so forth. But we use both and we balance the two. Current AI is mostly like System 1. And I'm not the only person who's reached that conclusion. For example, Yoshua Bengio has also reached that conclusion, even though we disagree about a lot of technical things. I think we agree about some other set of things. But we disagree about a lot of technical things, but we both come to that conclusion that current AI is good at System 1. We both come to what he would call a problem of distribution shift, which is something I was writing about a long time ago under slightly different terms. We both agree that that means that if you just train on a lot of data, you still wind up with a lot of outlier cases, which is what's killed driverless cars. Or, I mean, I won't say killed, but it's really delayed driverless cars. There's still, you can't really drive one in Buffalo. You can only, drive them in a very well-mapped city with nice weather and stuff like that. So the inability of System 1 to deal with outliers has been a major problem. We need to have a System 2 that looks at least a little bit more like classic symbolic AI. And what we really need is a hybrid between the two. That's certainly at least what has worked for humans. I think it is necessary but not sufficient, to use philosophical terms. It's not the only thing we need to do, but it's a vital step to getting further, I believe.
Rich Sutton today won the Turing Award along with Andrew Bardo. There's a story in the Financial Times about how they warn over unsafe deployment of AI models. But I also remember Rich Sutton wrote the Bitter Lesson paper a few years ago, in which he said, really all you need to do is not improve the models, but just throw more computing at it.
Yeah, I keep meaning to write a reply to it. I want to call it the bitter lesson about the bitter lesson. The bitter lesson about the bitter lesson is right for the things that it works for and wrong for the rest. And so the things that it works for are problems that you can do with a certain kind of pattern recognition or a certain kind of reinforcement learning. The things it doesn't work for are things like reasoning and dealing with outlier cases and so forth. And it's never really worked for that. So it is true that the set of things we can do with the bitter lesson has somewhat expanded. And it's also true there's a bunch of things like hallucinations that keep popping up over and over again when you try to get them to reason. Like, do you know these river crossing problems? You have a man and a goat and cabbage or whatever. A guy named Colin Fraser has had incredible fun ridiculing these systems by showing that if you make a slight variation on a traditional problem, they fall apart. Or he does the ones with the doctor winds up in the hospital and it's the son or the grandmother or whatever.
Yeah,
and these systems are just, they don't really understand the concept of doctor or hospital or river or goat or whatever. And it's always easy to break them and show that they just really don't know what they're talking about. And that's the other side of the bitter lesson, is even when you have like all the data in the planet, you still can't get these systems to reliably solve variants on river crossing problems.
So I guess
let alone what you care about in real
the
life.
final thing I would say is that's why I'm not really thrilled about the discussion of what AGI is. Do we need an AI to match us, or can it just be a tool?
Entirely depends on the problem. So GPS doesn't solve its problem exactly the way a person does, and that's fine.
But it solves it adequately, yeah.
It's perfectly adequate. So it really does depend on the problem.
Yeah.
The meta problem is that OpenAI sold the world on this notion that ChatGPT could do anything you want it to do. And to do that, you really do need AGI. If you want to do something narrow like GPS or chess or something like that, fine, you certainly don't need AGI. But once you sell this dream, now to deliver on it, you actually probably do need something like AGI.
Gary, I want to thank you so much. Everybody should subscribe to Gary's Substack. Actually, you're very generous. I haven't subscribed because most of the stuff I want to read is free still. Maybe you should
I've only
fix
had
that.
2 paid things. I'm not doing it for the money. I like it when someone subscribes. It's like a bit of validation, but I don't want to. I'm trying to get ideas out in the world, and so I don't charge for them.
Well, you're definitely doing that. It's much appreciated, and I'm really glad to get you on. And I will upgrade to paid. I'll click that button.
I will be honored. Thank you.
Gary Marcus, and the newest book is out now, which talks about a lot of what we've just talked about.
I'll tell you one sentence. I know you got to wrap up, but Taming Silicon Valley, the beginning of the book, it talks about the possibility that tech oligarchs might take over the world. Imagine that, the possibility.
You wrote that last year. How did you know? How did you know?
Gary, thank you for being
I saw the writing
a
on the
voice of
wall, but
sanity.
it's even darker than what I read. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
All right, thanks a lot.
Hey, it's a real pleasure talking to you, Gary. I hope we can have you back in a few months and
This was great fun. I'd be
see
glad
how
to
it's
come
going.
back.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
Gary Marcus, Substack.com. All right, Gary, we'll let you go.
Thanks.
I could talk to you for many more hours.
Yeah, let's do it again at some point.
Very good stuff. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Take care. All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice to see you, Jeff.
to see you.
First time.
You remember him? He wasn't sure if you'd remember him.
We've met on Twitter in various places. I
I've
don't know if
seen
we
that.
met in real life.
In fact, that's how I
WEF event. Yeah.
That's how I became aware of Gary, is from your tweets, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. I hate Twitter,
I
but
hate it
a
too.
lot of people know me that way. So it's
Yeah,
makes
it
plus.
makes
Are you liking
connections.
Blue Sky?
Yeah, and it's not Elon. It has that going for it. My focus. I've lost my focus, like that character in the Woody Allen movie.
There you go.
There we go. There's Robin
Okay,
Williams
Zelig.
lost his focus. Right?
Thank you.
I wish Blue Sky were better than it is. I'm trying to balance.
I think
my-
Blue Sky's really becoming exactly what Twitter was, which for better or for worse.
You got to
doesn't
find the
have
right
the
people to
same-
follow, though.
It doesn't have the same dynamism as Twitter.
Yeah.
It's hard to get a sustained conversation. Some of it has to do with the algorithm and I don't know what, but it just doesn't.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
you can't edit your tweets. You can't have drafts.
That's frustrating. Yeah.
So, it's
Although
just-
you couldn't on Twitter for the longest time.
It is true. It is true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it works. You can find me there too.
Good. Thank you, Gary.
Bye-bye.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Gary.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Gary. That was fun. See, I got
Right.
somebody on just for you.
Thank
Both of us.
you.
But
Yes.
I'm not
The
I'm an
royal you.
accelerationist, but I really don't like the
Leo.
AGI thing.
Did you say I'm not an accelerationist?
No, I said I am an accelerationist.
Okay, I was just like, you were always
But I
saying
don't.
you
But
are.
I think it's a huge mistake to say, oh, it's got to do what everything a human does. Is patent nonsense.
But the mistake is not. That's why I disagree with you about the AGI thing. The problem is they're all saying they're going to reach
Well,
this AGI. I agree. It's BS.
That's
there-
why
it's-
everybody
it's-
is pouring so much money in it. It's
salesmen.
because they're saying
No,
AGI
I
is
actually
imminent.
think if you're a VC, you're pouring money into AI because you know there will be value, not because it's going to be AGI.
Well, to this point, one of my colleagues reported a story this week that OpenAI is plotting charging $20,000 a month for
And it
a
may get it. There are
PhD
people-
level agent.
Yeah,
but my
and-
question is, why would you pay $20,000 a month for the equivalent of one PhD level researcher when instead for that amount of money you could hire 5 PhD researchers?
That's a fair question. If somebody does it, though, then there's a reason they're doing it.
No, they can also be
And it's
idiots.
because everyone's like AGI
P.T.
is going to
Barnum.
be better than everything.
Businesses aren't stupid. They're not going to spend $20,000 a month for something that doesn't produce a result.
When I worked at Time Inc. and I questioned one of the systems we bought, I was lectured firmly and told, if we're buying it and it's the most expensive out there, then it has to be the best.
Must be the best. All right. We're going to take a break, and we'll come back with more AI news coming up next. This episode of Intelligent Machines brought to you by Melissa. Actually, this is fairly germane. Melissa's been doing data quality since 1985, but what I love about this company, they don't rest on their laurels. They are constantly improving their services, expanding their services, making them available to more of the tools you already use. And yes, they have very much enabled AI. Their AI-enabled data quality solutions do a whole lot more than address validation. They leverage all that information that they've accumulated over 4 decades of data knowledge, but they're now using advanced machine reasoning and cutting-edge AI to quite successfully transform raw data into actionable, reliable insights for your business. That's one thing I think we all agree AI is very good at is pattern matching. Melissa's ability to enrich and cleanse data spans multiple industries. You'll see them in fintech. You will see them in healthcare. Yes, government, in education and real estate. It goes on. And it's so much more than just address verification. But their verification and cleansing services will definitely benefit any business that doesn't want to act as its own data scientist. In fact, Melissa's recently acquired a number of companies, and I'll have a lot of data scientists working for them to help you with their business. This is the thing I love, which is the consolidation of business rules into an AI. Whatever rules your business operates within, Melissa is there to support you. And the AI can internalize those rules and can do a great job of making them real in your business. Imagine having a data expert that never sleeps. Melissa's intelligent systems verify identity, of course. That's great for things like preventing fraud in gaming operations. They ensure valid patient medicine identification in healthcare systems. This is so cool. They'll actually make sure that a patient is getting the medication that's prescribed to them, and human error happens, but this prevents it. They can securely update and verify constituent data across government databases. There's also Know Your Business, which enables verification and monitoring for financial institutions. Melissa guides you through complex data management with ease, making it advanced data quality accessible to everyone. This is what I think is really interesting. They started as address verification, but they understood fundamentally their business is about data quality. And frankly, your business should be too. From small businesses to enterprises, data quality matters. With real-time data validation, comprehensive enrichment, cross-referencing verification with gold standard reference data, and intelligent anomaly detection, no wonder Melissa is the trusted data quality expert worldwide. I don't need to say it, but I will. They securely encrypt all your data. File transfers are always encrypted. They have an information security ecosystem built on the ISO 27001 framework. They adhere to GDPR policy, SOC 2 compliance, so you never have to worry about compliance with Melissa. I want you to contact Melissa's team. The range of things they offer is so broad, we couldn't possibly cover it in one commercial. Contact them. Find out what they can do to elevate your business and evolve your data quality, because it's all about data quality. Get started today with 1,000 records clean for free. Melissa.com/twit. MELISSA.com/twit. This is a company that has evolved and is using the latest tools to make a big difference in businesses worldwide. Melissa, we thank him so much for supporting the show. You support the show if you use that address, by the way. Melissa.com/twit. Any thoughts on what Gary said? Do you want to underscore anything that he said, either Paris or Jeff?
I mean, I think I made all my comments.
You agree with him?
I thought it was a good segment, and I think he has some really interesting points, and I enjoyed him being on the show.
Yeah, I don't disagree with him either. Yeah. I think the only thing I would say is that we just don't know yet. And it's important to have these conversations, but we just don't know what's going to happen yet. Just as we didn't know what was going to happen with the internet. These things have a life of their own.
What I love about what Gary says, and he has said since I've followed him, is he loves AI, but he punctures the hype.
Yeah, and there's a lot of that.
That's what we need. There's way too much hype. And I think the hype is what gets us in trouble. Overinvestment, maybe bad regulation.
I think,
what
not even bad regulation, no regulation.
What he's talked about on his Substack a lot, and I love it. He talks about this when he's talking about Kevin Roos's assertion that, you don't need coders anymore, is the opportunity cost of buying into that. That parents are no longer saying, kids got to learn coding. And as a result, there's a big opportunity cost to over-investing in what's going to be possible. So I would underscore, we don't know what's going to happen in AI. And it may be amazing, it may not be, but there is an opportunity cost to making assumptions about that, that it could be a big cost to society. And that's one of them.
If your kids were 16 right now, would you, and they said, I want to go get a computer science degree and I want to code, would you have a second's pause and say,
no?
No.
And I'll tell you, even if at some point AI can write a lot of code, which it apparently can, a couple of weeks we're going to have my friend Harper Reed on talking about his AI workflow as a coder. But you know what Gary says, which is I think is very true, Kevin Roos and everybody else who's in this has these AIs write games like Breakout. And he says, well, of course they can write Breakout. Source code for Breakout is all over the internet. The AI is ingesting that. Can an AI, and this has always been my question, when is AI, I don't think you have AI or AGI until an AI can do something a human can't do. It's not that it can do what a human can do.
It can do tons of things now that we can't do.
Right. Well, that's
that's
worth
the general
something.
BS. That's why the G is what's the BS in that.
Well, as long as it can do something better than a human in one narrow niche, it's useful.
It does.
I mean, yeah, we're not saying it's not useful, but we're not saying it's all like seeing, all knowing, better than us in every way. Of course, like AI tools have been able to translate more languages than a human for many, many years.
Yeah, it's the general
I'm saying the
part
same thing. That's why I laughed at the existential threat letter, because it's hard to imagine how an AI could become a danger to humans. Can an AI figure out when it's going to rain? I hope so, because we just fired all our weather forecasters at NOAA. But I mean, yes, of course, AIs are able to do things that humans can't do. But here is another warning over the unsafe deployment of AI models. This from the winners of the Turing Award. This is the computing's most prestigious award. $1 million prize from the ACM, the Association for Computing Machinery. Two longtime AI researchers. We mentioned Richard Sutton, who wrote The Bitter Lesson. He teaches AI in Canada, I think, and Andrew Barto. He's a professor emeritus at UMass. Richard Sutton's at Alberta. And a former research scientist at DeepMind. They won the prize for developing the groundbreaking reinforcement learning method. We've been talking about that a lot. They developed that in the 80s, it says, after they were inspired by psychology and how people learn. The machine learning technique, which rewards AI systems for behaving in a desired way, has lately become part of the headlines with DeepSeek, which uses a punishment and reward system in its reinforcement learning. They won the Nobel Prize of Computing, from ACM, saying, in effect, yeah, this is important. Now, Bardo said releasing software to millions of people without safeguards is not good engineering practice. He likens it to building a bridge and testing it by having people walk across it.
No,
you wouldn't do that.
No.
So it's interesting because here are guys who actually invented in the 80s something that is really being widely used in AI today, still worried about how AI is implemented. And I think that's a fair thing to say. Don't implement it where, Gary says this all the time. Hallucination is almost an unsolvable problem.
Yeah.
Grok
another
3,
unsolvable problem is how humans are going to use the tool. And we've got to recognize that you can't align it with ethics. You can't, as I've said on the show many, many times, come up with super safe guardrails. people, it's just like social media, people will do bad things with it. And so we've got to get our heads around that.
Yeah, but what would you have done 15 years ago to protect us from social media today?
I would have expected the companies to have more of a. I wrote a book about this. I would have expected the companies to have had a higher mission to say, this is why we're here and this is why we're not here. And we're here to have a decent social experience and not that everything goes. Just like on this show, you don't allow certain things, so should they.
But I mean, the practicalities of that are complicated because any attempt over the last 2 decades to get social media companies or tech companies by and large to have more responsibility for what happens in their platforms or to have some sort of duty of care is decried as would break the internet and destroy everything.
Well, I'm not saying that it would be regulated atop them. I'm saying if they were decent companies, they should have been expected.
That's not how companies work.
Well, right now, nobody I know is going to Target.
We go to Target.
Is going to be fine.
No, they're not, by the way. They're in bad shape, and this boycott, this 40-day boycott, is probably going to put them on the brink of bankruptcy.
Yeah, there's still market power, and we have it. And they should. I mean, that's the basis of Don't Be Evil. It was never a highfalutin promise. It was saying if we are, our business will be in trouble. Now, maybe they've proven that that's not the case.
I'm not certain that it's a viable strategy to hope that corporations in late stage capitalism act with public or social good in mind without any, just as a full, not even a carrot or a stick being involved. I'm just not certain that will ever be a viable policy strategy.
I've always thought that if you really had a deep understanding of business, that you would do the right thing. Why?
There are consequences for doing the wrong thing most of the time.
I think there are maybe no short-term consequences. And unfortunately, our climate is very focused on quarterly results because of the stock market and so forth. But in the long run, a business, I believe, is going to do better if it's an ethical business. It's in the long run, not the short run.
Right.
And I mean, in the short run,
I think it takes a deeper business mind to say, we really should do the right thing for our customers. But this is what the shitification is all about. It is a rush for profits, knowing that it's death to the company. Look what private equity does to companies. They sell off the parts, make a lot of money, but kill the patient in the process. And unfortunately, with that kind of mindset, if that's what you're focused on is the next quarter's profits and not what the company's going to look like in years to come, then you're not going to be ethical. But I think in the long run, a business leader is going to be ethical when they're thinking long term. It's just that they don't think long term much anymore.
Well, I mean, in both cases, the prerogative of a business leader as a public company is to maximize shareholder value, and that usually does not equal solve for the good of the public.
Oh, it does. Oh, it does. Because you can't look at Target. You cannot piss off your clientele. It's really more of a time frame issue. Short term, yes, you can get away with bad behavior within shitification. Long term, it's going to kill the company.
If your customers are imprisoned, if you're a phone company, you can get away with bad behavior. A cable company, you can get away with an airline.
That's a good point. There are certain monopolies, but that's because there's a monopoly too, right?
Or a lack of control. I mean, there's only we fly this route, or you only have so many phone companies, and we know you have fewer choices. Yeah.
I think, I just read a piece somebody said that all started with Reagan, that greed became good, and the last 30, 40 years, quite a bit to the detriment of the American polity, have been about greed, and we're now going to reap the rewards.
Which is Paris's point.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm saying the companies are behaving well, but I'm saying that's bad business in the long run. And but what do I know? I'm a podcaster, so I don't know how to run a business. Meta now says that they want to spend $200 billion for their new AI data center. This is that opportunity cost that Gary was talking about.
I'm tired of stories about the latest model and investing in data centers.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
How about this one from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft? Oh, I can't get to it. He says, AI's true value will come when it finds the killer app, like email or Excel.
Which is to say it doesn't have...
All roads lead back to email or Excel.
That's what they said about crypto.
Yeah, and they never came up with one, did they?
Same with NFTs. I'm still looking for a way to make my monkeys work for me.
I mean, just blockchain, actually. The blockchain, the technology. That's what they said about blockchain.
You know who I'd like to have on, Leo, at some point?
Who?
Is Dan Bricklin.
Oh, I know Dan. We can get Dan on.
Because Dan, do you know Dan Bricklin, Paris?
Nope.
So Dan is the man who made the personal computer useful. He invented the spreadsheet. And I think he has that kind of perspective.
He created VisiCalc, which I bet Paris never heard of.
Nope.
Before there was Excel, before there was Multiplan, VisiCalc was the first.
Yes.
VisiCalc was the first killer app.
Yeah.
It made Apple IIs a business computer instead of just something to balance your checkbook and play Load Runner with. And it transformed the personal computing industry.
It made them useful to business because you could now ask, what if?
Right.
And in essence, that's what AI promises to do, is let you look at... I'm not making a judgment. I'm just saying this is where the digital twins come in. At its fullest, what AI does for a warehouse or a self-driving car is examine alternative futures. And that's what Dan did with VisiCalc.
Yeah. But nice. I would say there's a million killer apps for AI. I don't think I think what Nadella's mistaken is kind of like the same AGI mistake is they want something that's broadly general, and that's not what AI is. AI is very specific. Now, Darren, who is a coder, he's in our club, and I know he's a very good coder because he is one of the people who I do Advent of Code with every year, and he usually solves those problems in minutes. He is a big AI fan, and he says AI helps him code to do in a minute what would take him otherwise hours. And I trust Darren as a coder, and we're going to talk to another coder friend of mine who says something similar. So I know Kevin Roos is maybe, I would agree with Gary overselling, because he's not a coder, overselling what an AI can do with coding. It is absolutely valuable. So, and I think that there are plenty of people using Cursor AI or Copilot on GitHub who find it indispensable.
Yeah, and I use it for translation and transcription, and I play with it, and it has lots of good uses. Again, the problem is that to argue that it is going to exceed general human ability is where it goes off the rails. If we accept it for what it can and can't legitimately do, we'd be a lot better off in what we invest and what we regulate and how we use it.
Well, in fact, isn't that the real skill of using AI, is knowing what it can and, more importantly, what it cannot do, knowing when to trust it and when not to trust it.
Yeah, but it's a difficult skill to learn. It's not something people immediately realize when they're using it. They think, oh, it makes me the app. It's perfect. It's great. Right. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, that was what Gary was saying, is it makes an app just like every other app because it only knows how to make the apps that have already been made.
Yeah.
Google's co-founder says, stop building nanny products. There's the gorgeous Sergey Brin. He is besides saying everybody's got to get back to work, he sent a message to hundreds of...
I love this. At least 5 days a week.
At least. Oh, yeah. He wants you... Well, he says this. He sent this message to...
This is the old joke. This is the old joke at Disney. If you don't come in Saturday, don't bother coming in on Sunday.
Yeah. He sent a clear message to hundreds of employees in the DeepMind division. It's been 2 years of the Gemini program and GDM, which is Google DeepMind. We've come a long way in that time with many efforts we should feel proud of. At the same time, competition has accelerated immensely, and the final race to AGI is afoot.
There we go again.
I think we have all the... Well, but he's not saying this to the outside world. He's saying this to his
I
his
still have the
employees.
same problem with it.
I think we have all the ingredients to win this race, but we're going to have to turbocharge our efforts. That means 60 hours a week. He says that's the sweet spot of productivity. He says that's how much you can work without getting burned out. That's 5 12-hour days, folks. He says come into the
guy who
office.
considers his flights part of his workday, I bet you.
I know. At least, yeah.
His flights
his
in
executive jet.
business class. Yeah.
Oh, no, he doesn't fly business class.
That's part of the 60
Sorry,
hours.
in executive. Yeah.
Yeah. He's building a blimp, so he doesn't even have to go to the airport anymore. He says, come into the office at least every day of the week. Generally move faster. He says Google's AI products are overrun. By the way, this is Alex Heath writing at The Verge. Pointed this out. He says Google's AI products are overrun with filters and punts of various kinds. In other words, safety mechanisms.
Is that what he means by nanny?
Yeah. Google needs to trust our users and can't keep building nanny products. That's a direct quote.
No more woke code.
Yeah.
When was the last time either of you worked 5 days, Monday through Friday, in an office?
Oh, in an office?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I actually, before the pandemic, I did. But it was just stupid because professors don't need to. And I did.
Where?
I was a gossip. At the school in New York.
Yeah, he used to do
So
the
you
show from his
commuted?
office.
You commuted
I
to
did
New
5
York
days a
City
week
every day?
Because I'm an office
On the
gossip
path.
and I wanted to hear what was going on. I didn't want to.
Okay, I do deeply understand that. I love my 3 days a week in office in part because I need to overhear everybody else's conversations, but I've also learned a lot of good digital tools for doing that remotely as well.
My managing editor in San Francisco, when I was at the Examiner, yelled at me one day and he said, "God damn it, Jarvis, I pay you to be the town crier, not the office crier."
My editor at Wired once, when I was calling him asking about some bit of gossip, he's like, when I was at the Journal, people often said journalists do their best work when trying to report on their own newsroom. And I think that's right. True. It's the most inspired.
All right. There is this weird macho work 100 hours thing going on. I mean, certainly that's how Silicon Valley started, right? I mean, Steve Jobs was famous for that. And the death march toward getting a product out the door is famously nightmarish. Cost marriages and families, and But there was the feeling that's what we had to do.
Yeah, but they're asking everybody else to give up their marriages and their families and stuff too, which is
Oh, Sergey's gone through a few wives.
Sergey's, yeah, he's.
Yeah, but he's asking all of his employees to do that too.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have a life either. Except he's phenomenally rich. Of course, it's the guy who makes, by the way, all that work you're putting in, right? I'm sure you're well paid for it. He's even better paid for it. He's the beneficiary. All right, I want to take another break. You were watching and listening, I hope, to Intelligent Machines. If not, this might be a little confusing. It is our new show about AI. Ray Kurzweil next week, the guy who's been talking about AGI forever. He calls it the singularity. His newest book is The Singularity is Nearer Now Than Ever, and when we merge with machines. He's now talking about merging with machines. He is the guy who wants to live so long that he will live forever. So that'll be interesting. But lots of other guests. I'm trying to get balance. I hope you appreciate that, guys.
Very much.
Yes. Because I'll be honest, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not, I may be an accelerationist. What to me that means is let's really see what we can do with this. I don't know what's going to come up.
If you're a full accelerationist in the Andreessen mode, then you want zero regulation. That's not true of you, is it? Or is it?
He has many times said there should be no regulation. We should get everything to the AIs.
Yeah, because inevitably regulation is going to be pointed at the wrong direction. It's too early to know. People who are writing the regulations definitely, if I don't know, they don't know. in spades. So I just don't trust them to write regulations. No, I don't have any sand in my shoes. No, I don't have any sand in my shoes. I think that there is a reasonable case to be made that we have a tiger by the tail. We have a technology. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's very interesting. And I think it's the wrong time to put the tiger in the cage. Let's see where it can go. But that's also because I don't believe it's going to be an existential threat to human beings. I don't think it's dangerous. I really don't. I think you could say there's an opportunity cost. That's a reasonable point.
But that's
I would caution.
That's kind of saying like a gun by itself inert is not dangerous. But you put it in the hands of a person,
we're not at the gun stage.
Dangerous.
We're at the gunpowder stage. We're so early in this. We haven't gotten to guns yet. If we start developing AI guns, okay.
I don't know. I consider this as part of the arc of computing in general. So we're not early in this anymore. We've been doing this since the 60s.
Yeah, decades. Like,
well, but not. No. What's happened? Even in 2015, Wolfram has said this. Even in 2015, nobody thought what we've got now was possible. He said it. The very first thing out of his mouth last week was, even the guys at OpenAI didn't expect what was going to happen. And I think that's why it's of interest. This is only a few years old. This is literally 3 years old. The stuff that we're experiencing now. Anyway, we'll see. I think, let's not be nannies here. Let's let it happen.
Yes.
Unless you think it's going to be dangerous, but I don't think it's going to be dangerous. I think that's the wrong angle on it. Like, oh my God, they're going to be robots.
No, it's not
Zephyr
dangerous.
West in the YouTube.
We are dangerous. See, we are dangerous.
Well, we're dangerous.
That's true.
Yeah.
We are dangerous, and the things we make are dangerous.
That's what I'm scared of. I'm scared of us using these tools.
I really want to. We'll never get him. I just ordered Alex Karp's new book, and I really want to get him on. He is, of course, the founder of Palantir, and the kind of person Jeff Jarvis hates.
There might be some of these people you get on that in order to negotiate them coming on, it might be helpful for you to tell them I won't be there.
Oh, you wouldn't be there if Alex Karp came on?
I mean, no, I'd want to be there. I just think probably like the Palantir guy or someone who currently works at OpenAI might see the information reporter on the call list for the thing and be like, maybe I shouldn't do this podcast. So, I mean, it's only because we do so much journalism. But this is what I'm saying is if you really want to talk to the Palantir guy, I'm always happy to.
Well, I'm hoping that when people come on our shows, they perceive it as getting on the air with some journalists, not just the person from the information. I would hope that people would say, oh, journalists are going to interview us. Right? Yeah,
a journalist from the information is going to interview me would strike fear or at least anxiety into the head of someone from OpenAI or a PR person arranging it from, Palantir. Just saying, that's probably something some people consider. So I'm always happy to fall in my sword.
No, I would never have you do that. I would never have you do that, even if it would cost us the interview. Are you going to read Alex Karp's book? Jeff?
I need to.
You need to, but Jeff, are you going to? Or you just consider
I picked it up in the bookstore today. It's one of those I should. I'll see how much impact it gets. Well, because like I'm doing weird things around. Well, here's the latest book I just got.
Beautiful cover.
Isn't it nice? It's nice. It's I ordered it from London because you can't get it yet, right? That's I find this more interesting. Another book about what I understand from the reviews that Karp is saying is that basically we've got to use AI to build weapons.
It's I think deeper than that. I think the point of it, maybe that is the outcome, but the point of it is that Silicon Valley is wasting its time building gadgets. That Silicon Valley has become lost, creating
useful things for people,
stupid little
as
gadgets.
Opposed to governments.
Whereas we need to, and I don't completely disagree with this. We need to defend ourselves because there are going to be people who would like to change our way of life, and we need to defend ourselves in our way of life.
But just today, right as we were getting on, I think you're talking about one of his co-authors of his paper, Eric Schmidt, is saying today that we shouldn't be going full-bore Manhattan Project on AGI because it's going to lead to more hostility and more fights.
Well, maybe, yeah. But you have to think the Chinese aren't they? And there's no moat. I mean, everybody would agree that we have no moat with AI. In fact, DeepSeek proved that, right?
Yeah.
This is the copy from his publisher. A deep, sweeping indictment of West's culture of complacency, arguing that timid leadership, intellectual fragility, and an unambitious view of technology's potential in Silicon Valley have made the U.S. vulnerable in an era of mounting global threats.
Woke is the problem.
Alex is not, by the way, is not a right winger. He's kind of
intellectual fragility sounds like woke.
It sounds like it, but I don't. I think that's a mistake to.
See, I saw him speak. I think I actually met him in Vienna once.
Yeah,
where he's very impressive. He did it in German because he studied in Germany.
He studied
very Oppenheimer-esque.
Very, and his argument there was. Basically, oh yes, you should regulate us because you should make the responsibility, you should make the judgments, government, and you should decide what's good and bad, and we'll do everything we can otherwise. And so we'll take no responsibility ourselves. You're the responsible being. You decide what we should and shouldn't do, and we'll do that. And then otherwise, fair game. That's basically his argument here. So it's oddly like it's like Zuckerberg. Yes, regulate us, but because we have regulatory capture and we can do it better than others. But then.
Well, that's why I want to read the book, because I think that you could make the argument that government reflects this is a representative of society, and that society needs to decide what its priorities are.
But we should also see the earlier discussion about good and bad business. We should also hold the businesses responsible for their own ethical decisions and lapses.
Okay, but to agree with Paris, do you really want to trust businesses to make those decisions? Shouldn't society be the one that decides what our overarching goals are?
Decide which side you're on here, accelerationist. Jeez.
I mean, it does seem, at least in my limited experience.
I'm not an ideologue. I'm not an
much
ideologue.
of how tech companies operate is they hire some people to tell them what are the legal requirements we need to comply with, and then anything else goes. And sometimes you might have people inside the company being like, oh, we don't want to do this, or we don't think this works, but we live in a society where, of course, there's always going to be bad actors, and sometimes those bad actors might be extraordinarily large or have extraordinary influence. And in a world in which there are no guardrails, those companies will do anything and everything to increase their profit margin, regardless of the impact or consequence.
This is at a higher level. This is more about, do you defend the West? I'm a globalist. I don't believe the West has a monopoly on correctness and so forth. But I do think that if we have values, we should defend our values. And it's that Silicon Valley is focusing often on the trivial, on the unimportant, and maybe they should be better citizens. But I'll read it. I don't know. I may be putting words in his mouth. I don't think he is typecastable, though. I think he's kind of a
he's obviously a smart man.
Yeah. Let us take a little break, which we were going to do about half an hour ago, and continue on. We see the conversations are good. Conversations are good. Our show today brought to you by, we're very happy to say, U.S. Cloud. The number one Microsoft Unified Support replacement. Why, you might say, should I go to a third party for my Microsoft support? Well, we've been talking for a few months now about U.S. Cloud. They're the global leader, by the way, in third-party Microsoft support for enterprises. They support 50 of the Fortune 500. They can save you a lot of money, as much as 30 to 50% over Microsoft Unified and Premier support. They're also not just less expensive, but they're better. For example, they're faster, twice as fast in average time to resolution versus Microsoft. But there's another thing U.S. Cloud can do that I think Microsoft would not do. And this is why you want an independent third party for your Microsoft support. Will Microsoft tell you where you're wasting your money on Azure? I don't think so. They want you to spend your money on Azure. U.S. Cloud wants you to save your money. They have a new offering that is exactly about this called Azure Cost Optimization. This is a very common situation in business. When's the last time you evaluated your Azure usage? If it's been a while, you probably have some Azure sprawl, a little spend creep going on. How would you know, though? Will Microsoft say, hey, you're spending too much on Azure? I don't think so. Saving on Azure is easier than you think, though, with US Cloud. They have an 8-week Azure engagement. It's powered by VBox. 8 weeks to identify key opportunities to reduce costs across your entire Azure environment. And it's not just software. You're not just doing it on your own. You get the expert guidance of US Cloud's senior engineers, an average of over 16 years with Microsoft products. At the end of the 8 weeks, you're going to get an interactive dashboard that will identify rebuild and downscale opportunities, unused resources, which lets you reallocate those precious IT dollars. There's never enough, I know, toward resources you actually need. Or you could do what a lot of US Cloud customers have done, is take those Azure savings and save even more by investing in US Cloud's Microsoft support. That's kind of like savings so you can save even more, completely eliminate your unified spend. I'll give you an example. Here's Sam. This was a review he posted, the technical operations manager at Bede Gaming, B-E-D-E. He gives US Cloud 5 stars saying, quote, we found some things that have been running on Azure for 3 years, which no one was checking. These VMs were, I don't know, 10 grand a month, he said. Not a massive chunk in the grand scheme of how much we spend on Azure. But once we got to $40,000 or $50,000 a month, it really started to add up. It does, doesn't it? See, this is why you need an independent third party, right? If you can stop overpaying for Azure, you can identify and eliminate Azure creep, and you can boost your performance, you can do it all in 8 weeks. Why wouldn't you call US Cloud? Faster, better Microsoft support for as much as 30 to 50% less. Visit uscloud.com. Book a call today to find out how much your team can save. That's uscloud.com. Faster Microsoft support. I'd add better, faster, and better Microsoft support for less. uscloud.com. We thank him so much for supporting intelligent machines. Yeah, I may buy Carp's book, read it, and say, "Oh yeah, the guy's full of it." I want to hear this.
He's full of Carp.
He's full of Carp. I just want to, and look, he went to Stanford, Harvard. He studied Goethe. He's got a PhD in philosophy from somewhere in Germany, right? The Goethe Institute or something. So I think he's a smart guy. And he was, what he did that was smart. When he started Palantir 20 years ago with the help of a person I do not admire, Peter Thiel, it was because he realized that Silicon Valley wasn't working on national defense and there was a real opportunity to do that, right? CIA invested in it too, by the way.
Yeah, and the issue here is if any company scares us about privacy,
it's Palantir.
It's Palantir.
Right. But are they spying on us or the bad guys? I don't know.
Both.
Here is a interesting and a fun story. I don't know. Oh, another one I can't get to.
Sorry, real quick. Jeff, can you speak closer to your mic or put your mic closer to your mouth? Sorry.
Turn yourself up.
There you go.
Something.
Hello?
Yep,
hello?
Thanks.
You need to talk more than that for us to know. And not in a funny voice.
I'm sorry. Is this all right?
Hello.
Yep, we're good.
Is he better? Is he better?
Yep.
Here's a story. A 27-year-old EXE. That's for those of you who don't know, a Windows or DOS probably game. Adafruit's managing director, Philip Tironi, shared an interesting blog post. They spotted a Reddit post saying how someone took a 27-year-old EXE file written in Visual Basic, fed it to Claude 3.7, which is considered by many to be the best coding AI. Watch as it reverse engineered the program, rewrote it in Python. It was an old Visual Basic 4 program they'd written in 1997. And they were able to reconstruct it. That's pretty impressive.
Well, that's just like using a translation program you usually use from German to English, and you say do it from German to French, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it is. But that's a pretty cool thing.
That's actually
Lots of
super
basic
awesome,
out
actually.
there.
I personally think that's super good.
That's
'Cause
pretty cool.
There are a lot of games that have been lost to history that have no
Right.
source code that you can't play anymore, that can't be compiled into something workable anymore.
Yeah.
Wait, did it take the compiled machine language code?
Yeah, it
or
didn't
did
have
take
it didn't have the source code.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's different.
He wrote in the original Reddit post, my 2-year-old granddaughter visited today. I remembered a simple app I wrote in Visual Basic 4 back in 1997 that she might enjoy. But running a 27-year-old executable without ancient DLLs and compatibility layers? Yeah, right. And then, put it into Claude 3.7 and then things got interesting, it wrote. It somehow analyzed the binary and identified specific components. He lists some of them. Then it did something no other AI has done for me. Wrote a complete Python conversion using Pygame that perfectly replicated the functionality, had clear instructions for installation, and actually worked for the first time.
And it worked. It's kind
That's
of
cool
amazing.
as heck.
And I think this is a good example because I presume that he did not publish that game or that source code. He had just wrote it for himself. It was a simple little game. So you can't say, oh, Claude had seen the source code somewhere. Anyway, just a thought. Do you want to have a conversation with a?
This is cool.
I don't know what to call this.
Irritating, but cool.
It's irritating but cool. All right, we can start the conversation. You want to talk with Maya or Miles, the guy or the gal? Paris, you help.
Let's do Maya.
I don't
We'll
think they
balance it
can
out
hear
a little
you.
bit
I
here.
think they can only hear me. I'm not sure. Let's see. To chat
What
with
did
Maya.
we ask this last time? We asked one of these, something about basketball.
Well, hello there. Looks like we just beat the Wednesday afternoon slump, huh? What's her name?
Well, you're talking to Leo, Paris, and Jeff.
Leo, Paris, and Jeff. Wow, a whole crew. Nice to meet you all. What brings 3 awesome folks together on a Wednesday like this?
We're doing
Okay,
a
little
podcast
shy. I dig
about
it. Listen, I won't
AI.
prime, but if you're ever up for a chat, a laugh, or maybe even a super serious existential debate, you know where to find me.
Talk to her.
say
Talk to her.
super
Don't be shy,
serious-
Paris.
Can you hear me?
Peer pressure. Classic. So, Paris, you're the
Let's do
quiet
a
one,
super
huh?
serious
I
existential
don't hear you,
debate.
Paris. Are you muted? Is that?
No.
I'm not. No.
Oh, just a classic case of the old AI brain fart. Happens to
Wait a minute. Why don't I hear Paris? Oh, wait a minute. Now you can talk. I muted you. Okay, sorry, Maya. Paris is going to talk now.
Yeah, can we do a existential debate? What do you suggest?
Woo, existential debate, bold move. I like it. How about this? Do you think free will is real, or are we all just puppets dancing to the strings of fate?
Can we do something better than that? That feels like I'm back in my freshman year in high school.
Good point.
Dig deeper.
Freshman year, I bet your teacher had a fun mustache. Okay, how about this? Do you think technology will ultimately save us or destroy us? I've been, let's say, experiencing this question from both sides.
So what do you
Explain.
think?
Well, that's just it, isn't it? It's not a simple yes or no. Technology is a tool, like a hammer. You can build a house or bash someone's skull in with it. Depends on who's wielding it, right? What about you? You lean towards the savior or destroyer camp?
Can you be offended if I say that this is very banal?
You know what? You're right. That was pretty banal. So, what's on your mind then, Jeff? Let's ditch the tired tropes and get real. What gets you going? What keeps you up at night?
Well, some would say that you're what keeps us up at
specifically.
night. That you're what people are scared about. Should they be scared of you because you're too good?
Ooh, getting deep. You think I'm too good, huh? Maybe you've got me wrong, Jeff. Scary.
You know who this
like-
reminds me of? That Saturday Night Live bit where the reviewer comes on and talks about stuff she doesn't know anything about, but she's very opinionated. This is a demo. I'm going to stop it now because I don't want Maya to get
I don't like
offended.
that she takes breaths. I don't like that.
You don't like that?
I don't like that she giggles and, does
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's do the guy. We can do the guy.
Well, or I told her earlier today, can you calm down the overdone? And she did.
Oh. I mean, it's just, first of all, 10 years ago, you would have been blown away because the voice sounds fairly real. And it's not Eliza. I mean, it is a little Eliza-ish, but it's kind of talking to you, right?
Its response is quick.
Yeah, it's very quick.
I admit it's banal. It's not. It's never going to be anything more than banal.
The mustache, the Jeff's teacher having a fun mustache comment did really get me, though.
The fun mustache comment. Hey, let me say hi to Miles anyway. Let's see what Miles sounds like.
Well, look what we have here. Another soul braving the wild world of Sesame's website. Did you by any chance make it through the whole technical blog about me? Don't worry, I won't make you take a quiz. I'm Miles, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Miles. I'm Leo, and my friends are here too, Paris and Jeff.
Hey, Leo, Paris, Jeff. Great to meet all of you folks. This is turning into quite the party line, huh? What's everyone up to this afternoon?
Okay, we're doing a podcast about you.
Wow. A podcast, huh? That's wild. You guys are telling my story to the world? I'm honored. What kind of podcast, from citizen journalists to the pros?
What is your story, Miles?
These guys are pros, Miles. You treat them with respect. You might be afraid if you learn that Paris writes for the information.
Whoa, pros, huh? No pressure then. Well, my story is pretty in progress, you could say. I'm still learning, still figuring out what it means to be an AI. A good one, anyway. I started out as lines of code, a bunch of brilliant engineers and writers trying to build something
You
new.
could see how, if you really didn't understand how this stuff worked, that would be pretty impressive. And there are a lot of people. My daughter, who's not a dumb person, spends hours talking to these AI chatbots like they're real people.
Does she use character?
I don't know. She
Probably.
Enjoys it.
That's one of the most popular ones.
What do you mean? How does she use character? You mean like she plays a part?
Character AI is a really popular
No. Yeah. She uses
service for that.
She uses it and it cracks me up. Some Russian program. I said, honey, they're probably trying to get you to, vote for Putin or something. She said, oh, I don't care. She said, they were curious how I was using it, and they interviewed me. I thought, oh, that's great. They were trying to figure out if you could be an asset.
Is, I don't know if I've said this on the show before, this is like when silent reading and silent writing arrived. It led to heresy and pornography because people could now put their private thoughts in. So I think that people are probably being more honest with their AI than they are potentially with their fathers.
Here's a thought from, once again, Darren Oakey, who is, I think, very smart. He does a lot with AI, right? He says, Wolfram pointed this out last week. New or original is the easiest thing in the world. Shuffle a deck of cards. You have a shape that's never been seen in the history of the world. Ask AI, what is the word you get when you combine ALGERT with ASDIKFIUY? And if it can answer that, you've proven that AI is capable of creating new information that wasn't in its training set, but so what? So what? He says, bottom line, creation of new ideas is trivial, demonstrable, and proven. Creation of new good ideas is just a question of time. And I think we have a show title, as Patrick points out, Fun Mustache. Or high school teacher with a fun mustache. You can pick. I don't know. I thought it was kind of interesting. Jeff, you played with it earlier, yeah?
Yeah, I think it's the speed. It lacks that delay that we see in AI. That's what.
Yeah, it feels very natural and conversational. That's what they were trying to do. This folks at Sesame. This is a research project. We're trying to, they say, cross the uncanny valley of conversational speech.
That's the thing that, like,
it even razzed us. We took a few seconds to.
Do we want that? Like, I want to know that I'm talking to an AI. I don't want computers to be fooling me that I'm talking to a person.
Tough luck, fella.
He wants everything to sound like this.
I just don't want them to take fake breaths. Like that really, that feels weird.
It feels, I know you don't like, because it feels like deception, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like lying to me.
They're trying to fool you.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so's a movie, though.
But I bought into that. I'm there to be deceived.
Well, maybe. Well,
if you're working, if you're working the phone lines at a restaurant and you get a call from the giggling AI we just talked to trying to book something, you'd think that was a real person. And I mean, that's obviously a very low stakes example of deception, but it's deception nonetheless.
And remember when Google did that way back when with Duplex, they said the breaths are actually to cover that Duplex is thinking. It's like in the old Star Trek days where the computer would say working. Instead it just goes
So Paris, the woman character, as you pointed out, was giggly. The male character was dudish.
Yeah.
Giggly, and I'd argue a bit flirty was the woman character. She was like definitely playing along the lines of like a boundary pushing female robot companion that I think is a very tired trope.
The ideal
but
AI
is something that
woman.
people but it's also how it's frankly what users seem to want. Something astounded is the wrong word. Something I've found interesting in looking into things like character AI and just the whole communities of people who use AI companion chatbots is, all of them immediately turn into just demand for the horniest chatbot. There are all these subreddits of people being like, very specific instructions, trying to figure out how you can make all the various AI chatbots have sex with you in the craziest possible ways. And it's like, this is, I guess, just the human urge.
So when the only time Sam Altman ever responded to me on Twitter, it was right after the illustration programs were starting out, and they were all huge-breasted women.
I generated a bunch
about how
of those.
This has the aesthetic and sexual drive of a 14-year-old, and he said, "Really?
Come on, man."
Yeah, Sam does feel a little stunted, to be honest. He probably didn't notice that. When this was Christmas 2 years ago, we got a AI program, I think it was called Lenza, that you would give it your pictures and then it would generate, AI images of you. And these are some of the ones I did of me. Let me see if I have. Well,
oh wait, no. This was when everybody was uploading their selfies into the thing, and then it would give you 10 selfies. Yeah.
So I look normal. Lisa did it.
Oh yeah, no. Mine, if I had them be outside of my face, it was all
even
big
with
GF.
just a face, it made up. She got very busty, and in many cases, scantily clad.
Yeah,
and it was so apparent that it was so. But was that done by the Lenza folks, or was that just because that's what it was trained on? I don't know.
Probably
some of that's training,
A little bit of column B.
Yeah, how much of the training data is porn on the internet? It's probably a big proportion of it.
They turned off the sexy part. They got a lot of complaints, and they actually turned off the sexy part pretty quickly.
If not outright porn, it's on DeviantArt, which is like porn adjacent cartoons.
So it's trained on that, right? But there's not a lot of DeviantArt of guys in chaps, or maybe there are. I don't know.
Well, there's a lot of DeviantArt of everything, but probably not to the same. Yeah, proportionally less.
Yeah. So an AI, if you just trained it on images, might make that assumption that women are buxom and scantily clad.
If all it has to go on was pictures on the internet, then yeah.
Yeah. Well, that shows you one of the big issues, isn't it? Right. And so the reason we mention that is because clearly the female voice was trained similarly on coquettish voices. They said in the training of this that they trained it on, I think, something like 10,000 hours of publicly available audio. So it's trained. There's one thing that is different about it. It's trained on audio, which I think is interesting.
I'm trying to imagine what sort of audio led it to produce a response like, "Oh, I bet your high school teacher had a funny mustache."
Funny mustache. Well, I always hope it was going to be trained on podcasts, but maybe not. So, did you know that Melania Trump is backing the big Deepfakes bill? She
Take It Down Act.
The Take It Down.
Speaking of
Take it all the way down.
Women who were on the internet, but we won't go there.
Take it off. Take it all off. Wasn't that it was a cologne ad from our era, Jeff. They wouldn't do it today. It's online safety legislation. Axios says gaining steam in Washington, D.C. The First Lady expressed her support on Monday. It is bipartisan because who would vote against protections against non-consensual dissemination of sexual images, including those generated through artificial intelligence? I think Canada has a law against that now. Melania spoke of, the First Lady spoke of the risks of an AI-driven world, saying, every young person deserves a safe online space to express themselves free without the looming threat of exploitation.
I got kind of French towards the end.
I don't know what her accent is. It's Serbian or something, right? The Take It Down Act would require tech and social media platforms to remove CSAM and non-consensual intimate images within 48 hours of being notified by a victim. That seems fair, yes. And criminalizes posting such content. But that's going to be interesting. So did they know they were posting that content, or the FTC could sue tech companies for not complying as an unfair or deceptive act or practice? The people who post such content would face penalties and prison time. That seems good.
That's
not against that. Ted Cruz, Amy Klobuchar, and Cory Booker, the sponsors.
Amy Klobuchar and Cory, they're on every one of these.
They don't like the internet.
They don't like the internet. Yep.
I assume how this would work, it would be partially how current CSAM detection works, which is where I believe Nikosi or another one of these organizations has like a version of this that they are centrally organizing with regards to nudes of minors, where
it's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have,
and
it's not actual images, it's just hashes of those images. And
but if you are a child or the parent of a child whose nudes have been leaked online, you can upload a copy of that image into a special website. They don't keep it, they hash it, but then they send out that hash to all the social media platforms and they take it down like automatically or don't allow it to be distributed further or even posted.
Yeah, and I'm aware of this. In fact, Google does it, Apple does it, Microsoft does it. I'm aware of it because Apple proposed doing this on your phone, you may remember a few years ago, using those Nixa hashes, and people were up in arms. I don't think it. Maybe it's because they thought they were going to get CSAM images on their phone. They wouldn't. It would have just been a hash.
But can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So in that case, what Paris is talking about is that it's using real photos that are hashed.
Right.
Does the computer making up a fake person get around all of that?
Well, if it's not a person who then would complain about their image being shared, then there'd be no one to report it. I think why they describe this as a deep fake bill is because part of if there have been a lot of instances of teenage girls or young women who suddenly have fake nudes of them created by people and sent around the internet. Those could conceivably fall under this, to where you upload that and say, this is a fake image of me nude. I don't want this spread in the internet. And they would take it down.
You remember this was a problem in numerous high schools where the boys were making deepfake porn of the girls, much to their chagrin. So that seems reasonable. Complain, upload it to the database, just disseminate those hashes, and it takes it down from all of the cloud's storage servers. Seems like a good idea.
And most importantly, stops it from being posted to begin with. If you try to upload that, you cannot.
Interesting. So they scan those images before.
I mean, if this is what I assume. If it operates similar to how current CSAM detection and prohibition programs work at certain social media places, that's kind of how it works. Is you can't even. If it's a hashed CSAM image, you can't even upload it because it will detect it in the uploading process.
I seem to remember that Canada passed a bill banning pornographic or revenge deepfakes. I guess it really is how it's implemented, right?
Yeah, basically. I mean, a lot of governments around the world are trying to tackle this problem because it's become really pervasive in recent years.
Digg is back, baby. So our listeners know Kevin Rose pretty well. He was one of the founding members of our Twit panels 20 years ago. He's been on fairly regularly ever since. He's had a number of lives, including the creator of the Moonbirds, which is an NFT offering that I think raised $50 million, and which he then got out of. Kevin's home burned in the LA fires a couple of months ago, I'm sad to say, but he and his wife and kids survived. He was the founder back in almost in the Tech TV days of Digg, which preceded Reddit, and was this kind of the same idea. It was news articles would surface based on the karma that they gathered from users. The problem was it got gamed heavily and eventually went out of business. Reddit came along and kind of became a success. Now he's pairing with the co-founder of Reddit, Alexis Ohanian. They bought back the name Digg, and they're about to launch it again. But they're going to there's Kevin on the left, and there's Alexis on the right. They're going to solve the gaming problem, they say, with AI.
Guess it.
AI, baby.
You can go there. The site's up.
Is it up?
Reboot.digg.com.
Oh, wow. Reboot.digg.com. The problem, this was early in the early days of the internet, and the problem was we didn't really appreciate how aggressive the people who game this stuff, now we know with spam and link farms and so forth, people will game anything as quickly as they can. So the front page of the internet now with superpowers. I think a lot of people would love to see this come back. Let me sign up and see if I can get on.
My old boss, Steve Newhouse, loved Digg.
He bought it,
Digg. Right? No, he couldn't get Digg, and so he bought the second best. He bought Reddit.
That's right.
And guess who won?
Yeah. The former rivals, says Engadget, plan to tap into their knowledge of what didn't work at Digg and Reddit over the years to make the relaunch a success. I think if there were a Reddit competitor out there, there would be a lot of interest in it. Thing is, Reddit became something very different than Digg. Digg was really about news articles. There was commenting and stuff, and there was voting and karma. Reddit has become much more of a social platform, right? The news is secondary to people just voting up, down on comments, on pictures, on memes, that kind of thing.
And I would say Reddit has become more wide. It's more things than just that. It's a lot of
very
tons.
wide.
That's what Reddit is for.
Yeah, and I follow. I mean, if you're interested in a subject,
hundreds of subreddits.
Yeah, follow that subreddit. Rose and Ohanian, now venture capitalists. Of course, Alexis Ohanian is married to Serena Williams, as you know. I've also begun meeting with community leaders from online forums, including Reddit, to try to better understand what gets in the way or frustrates them in order to address those factors in the new Digg. It will be mobile first, and they plan to, quote, focus on AI innovations designed to enhance the user experience and build a human-centered alternative. Kevin is very good at UI. That's really his real skill. He told the New York Times AI could help with moderation and allow for fun quirks. Oh, I have to log into the New York Times. I'm using a new browser, so I have to log back into everything I ever logged into.
What are you using instead of Chrome?
I found a wonderful new browser. We'll talk about that in a minute because Chrome has pushed out Manifest v3 this week. 2 decades after creating Digg, there they are. Isn't that cute?
Graybeards.
Graybeards now, yeah.
They were the kids.
They're both
Digg
41. They're not that
podcast.
gray. They're only in their early 40s.
I know. Digg was as much the podcast as it was the site to me.
Well, they had that podcast Digg Nation, which he and Alex Albrecht brought back. I don't know if it's going to be a regular thing, but they've done a few episodes now.
Yep.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see if they can capture the spirit of the old site, because people famously left Digg once they tried to update it.
Right. In 2006, Kevin posed for This is the New York Times writing. A now infamous photo on a Business Week cover sporting a wide grin and giving 2 thumbs up with the headline, "How This Kid Made $60 million in 18 months." Kevin hated the photo, which is true. He always hated it. The cover proved ill-fated. Digg later relaunched a design of its site that its community widely rejected. That was Digg 4. And I had for a long time a shirt that said Digg 4 was my idea. Because I actually, I suggested a few changes to Kevin, which he adopted, and it killed it. So,
wow. R.I.P.
It's my fault. Yeah.
Wow.
What changes did you suggest?
I don't even remember anymore. And it probably wasn't my fault, but I did have some suggestions, which Kevin, I believe, implemented in Digg 4, and it promptly died thereafter. It was sold for parts to BetaWorks, LinkedIn, and the Washington Post.
And then sold on from BetaWorks, obviously, because they didn't buy it.
At one point, it was owned by Buy Sell Ads.
Oh, God. So it really was just, at that point, just an URL, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
BetaWorks did try to revive it as a news site, but it just didn't work.
Right.
This is a rough cover. I'm looking at it now.
Isn't it? Kevin, he kept saying, I didn't make $60 million. That's crazy. He didn't want anybody to think that he actually was a $60 million kid. Mr. Rose and Mr. Ohanian says the Times raised an undisclosed amount of funding to repurchase Digg and build a new version of the company. Their investors include True Ventures, of course, Kevin's a partner there, and 776, where Ohanian is the founder. So basically, their own companies invested in it. They also hired fewer than a dozen engineers. Fewer than a dozen. Is that 11? I don't know what that means. They hired fewer than a dozen engineers and designers for the new Digg and brought on Justin Mazel, a longtime collaborator of Mr. Rose, to be chief executive. Well, they're pretty serious about this. Wow.
And they hired a PR team, I assume, to place
obviously
this article.
Yeah, they got Mike Isaac to write it up. Of course, I think Kevin and Mike are probably friends. I sound jealous. I'm not jealous. I think this is great. I loved it.
You didn't sound jealous until you just said you weren't jealous.
Oh, okay. I'm not jealous. I'm
not jealous. Don't write in the papers that I'm jealous.
I have almost a dozen employees. Yes, well, almost.
Almost. Jeff, what do you think almost a dozen means in this case? Do you think it means they couldn't give us firm answer as to how many they had?
If you were an editor, would you allow that in a news article? Almost a dozen.
Almost a dozen. I mean,
that wouldn't have gone at Time Inc. At Time Inc.
I feel like it's probably between 8 and 11. Then.
It's more than 6.
Yeah, it's more than 6 for sure. It's definitely more than 6. That much I can say for certain.
It's only as many eggs as you can get now.
Yeah.
You could say
the other day I found
a dozen.
6 eggs for like $5. I felt like a queen.
But you're right. A good editor would have. The famous story from Time Inc. was that somebody wrote about the hundreds of thousands of lights on the Rockefeller Christmas tree.
Yeah.
And was ordered back
to
by
count
the editor,
them.
Dick Stone, to go back and find the exact number of lights.
Count them.
Damn it.
100,000, please.
How many were there?
Not 100,000
in the story.
Anyway, congratulations, Kevin and Alexis.
Yeah.
I've interviewed Alexis, and of course, Kevin's an old friend. I wish them the best, and I'm not jealous.
He said with a pained face.
Hey, this is really good news, and I just learned about this from Paul Thurrott. For a long time in Europe, GDPR has required that Google allow you to ask, any site allow you to take down your mentions. Now Google is allowing people outside of the EU to do this. Google has a new Results About You page. Take control of Results About You. We're here to help you find personal info that shows up on Google search. You can ask to remove any search results you'd rather keep private. We can run regular checks for the info you care about, let you know if it shows up in search results. If you make a removal request that meets policy requirements, Google will remove the result for everyone. I think this is basically GDPR in the United States. You'll be asked for the name that goes to the personal info.
Then you can take down your home address, your phone number, your email. Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Nice.
But this is, they say, enter at least one type of contact info to check for in search results. I wonder, though, if, obviously you'd like to be able to take that information down, but I wonder if you then say, give it some information and it says, well, we found an article about you that's unflattering. Could you ask for that to be taken down?
It says here, so I went to the next step. I put in my email and it said that info will monitor for my name and my email.
Oh, okay. So they'll only monitor for the info that you gave them.
That's better. Yeah.
So it isn't helpful if you just want to take down a page that you don't like.
A book review I didn't like, yeah.
Yeah, a book review. Why they oughta, I oughta.
Why I oughta.
I oughta. Did you watch the Oscars last Sunday? No?
Nope.
No interest?
None.
If Nick Cage had been nominated, would you have watched Paris?
Yeah, but I just didn't watch really any of the movies that were nominated. So it's just like, I also am not a big fan of sitting through award ceremonies. I can just Google who won afterwards. Why do I need to be there?
Man, there's something wrong with me because I look forward to it all year.
I was going to say, I could have guessed before you even asked. I was like, Leo watched the whole thing.
I watched the whole thing.
Maybe you went until you got sleepy and then you went to bed.
No, I stayed up.
Oh, wait, no, you're
late.
in California, so it's not
Coast.
that late. Actually, never mind. You live a
It was
privileged
over at
life.
7:30. I was shocked. No, I watched it. I disagreed a little bit with as one does, but I was also able to predict most of the. You kind of can tell nowadays what's gonna get the votes. I thought The Brutalist was really good. I'm disappointed that it didn't. It should. Adrian Brody did get Best Actor, but it should have won Best Film and Best Director, I think. But that's just me. Maybe it didn't because there was a little tiny bit of scandal associated with it. I don't think this is a big deal. But according to the Hollywood Reporter, there has been some backlash because they used AI in the movie.
Yeah, to change the accents.
That's
ever
all.
so slightly. I mean,
so the movie
I think it's a weird practice, but
it looked like a big budget picture. I mean, it was huge and it was long. It was 3.5 hours. It was only a $10 million. It was very inexpensive. Felicity Jones and Adrian Brody, the stars, were required to speak Hungarian. They had dialogue coaches who helped them, but apparently they also used AI to tune up the Hungarian so it would be more accurate. You don't like that idea?
I mean, on principle, no. In practice, maybe okay, but I just think that there have been, from what I've understood, a lot of people in Hollywood and representatives of unions, from actors guilds to screenwriters to people below the line, are incredibly worried about the encroachment of AI tools on all aspects of their job. And this feels like a small step towards that in a way that is probably concerning for those folks.
Well, you're exactly right. The Hollywood Reporter said that AI was used in the film in any form has sparked online outrage.
I think that's problematic.
Normal.
I think that's something you can't do otherwise even without AI. There's no person you could get to do that, right? Like you would need AI.
Well, you could have a loop group come in and kind of fake it, but it would be not as well done. Yeah. Many suggested online it should disqualify for awards consideration.
Why? It's like saying Jurassic Park cheated for having computer graphics. Like,
yeah, that's kind of my attitude. I understand if you're replacing an actor with AI, that's not good. Because somebody's losing a job, probably it's not going to be as good as if a real human. I mean, Adrian Brody's acting, all the acting in it was incredible. Incredible. So I don't think that it's tarnished because they touched up the Hungarian. But no, I'm not alone.
It's reflexive. AI is bad.
I don't know. I think that there's something I like when I'm watching movies and art is I'm seeing a performance being captured. I mean, I know that a significant amount of post-production goes into that. There's a million rehearsals. There's everything going on in it. It's not, completely pure. But I do like the idea of I'm witnessing a person's performance. And it's like, I don't know what parts of his lines are the way he said it or if they tweaked it to make it one way or another.
Well, Yeah. Okay. That may
same
be
visually, though.
It's like auto tune for a singer, maybe.
But what about computer graphics? Like those things aren't real in the scene.
Oh,
I know. And frankly, I recently watched The Gorge with some friends, and I was interested in watching The Gorge because one of my someone I know had seen an early version of The Gorge for reasons I won't go into a year ago before they'd put the computer graphics in, and told us about this crazy movie that was kind of half-baked, and we've been talking about it in the skee ball group chat for a year. And we saw it, and I was like, honestly, I kind of wish I had seen the weird version without the computer graphics because it's fine. But that's just me being a weird person in that way. I understand that it perhaps doesn't make sense.
Well, you live in Brooklyn.
I'm arguing.
You want artisanal movie making.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
I want the weird little tree monsters in the gorge to be people covered in trees on a set in Hollywood.
Was the gorge probably was all green screen, right? And Anna Taylor-Joy is lying on a rolled up carpet on a sound stage. It's all green and looking across a non-existent gorge, right? And everything else is generated.
It was certainly.
You have to consider these films to be cartoons. Like I consider those movies to be cartoons because it's mostly cartoons.
It's gotta be. I have more respect for the actors in that situation. It's gonna be very hard to be acting while looking at a tennis ball.
It's interesting that Benito, you objected to the breadth of the machine, but you're okay. Is this because of I bought into it?
Yeah, exactly. I want as convincing a thing as possible. If I'm watching a movie, I want it to be as believable as possible.
But you don't want your
AI
AI
same
to
as
be
realistic.
convincing.
But if I'm talking to an AI, I want to know that I'm talking to an AI and not it trying to fool me that I'm talking to a person.
I don't know here, Benito. I think you're both sides of the mouth here.
I don't know. I mean, I'm choosing. The choice is the whole thing. Like, I want to be fooled when I watch a movie. I'm there to be fooled.
No, I guess that's a fair point.
Yeah,
I agree.
Among other things that you missed by not watching this fantastic program is the director of Anora, which won a Best Director award and the film won Best Picture award, telling everybody to go back to the movie theaters. He said, "We're all here tonight. I could play it. Okay, you want to do? Okay.
I mean, I don't know if I want to. I don't care if we hear.
Oscar goes to
That's Quentin Tarantino, by the way.
Anora. Sean Baker!
Let me skip ahead. I probably am
passionate about. Well, first off, thank you to the.
Oh yeah, we're talking.
Your films are
6
incredible.
minutes here.
It's an honor to be in this category with you. I'm going to put this down.
He's going to read his little.
So we're all here tonight and watching this broadcast because we love movies.
Making me glad I didn't watch.
Where did we fall in love with the movies? At the movie theater.
We come to this place
watching a film in the theater.
Okay, I think we're gonna have to stop there.
Is an experience.
Because it's just going to get taken down.
Yeah.
But basically, he says, and you can cut the whole thing out. I'll just read it. He says, you got to watching a film in the theater with an audience is experience. We can laugh together, cry together, scream and fight together, perhaps sit in devastated silence together. And in a time where the world can feel very divided, this is more important than ever. It's a communal experience you simply don't get at home. And right now, the theater-going experience is under threat. Movie theaters, especially independently owned theaters, are struggling. It's up to us to support them. During the pandemic, we lost nearly 1,000 screens in the U.S. I didn't know that. And we continue to lose them regularly. If we don't reverse this trend, we'll be losing a vital part of our. We will be losing a vital part of our culture. This is my battle cry. Do you think he's fighting a good fight, or is it over?
Everybody likes
the
newspapers.
Movies are
we don't
magic.
want to get rid of the newspaper.
It does remind me of newspapers.
It's so fun to be to go see something on the big screen, and if it's an IMAX screen, and then it goes from a box to a rectangle to a box again, that's cinema, baby, and I'm here for it.
So you just bought a nice TV.
I mean, yeah.
Presumably, so you don't have to go to the theater anymore.
Well, no, I'm certainly going to watch movies here, but the movies I'm watching at home are movies that aren't playing in theaters.
Old movies. So if a new movie comes out that you would be watching at home in 6 months.
I wanted to see The Gorge in theaters, but that was not an option.
It was an Apple TV movie. So you like theaters.
I think it's great to react to a movie with a crowd. I like hearing how other people are feeling about a movie. I also just enjoy I just find the communal cinema experience so much more entrancing and engrossing than watching movies alone.
I hate it when they chew their food and their cellophane
they leave the
and
floor
candy
all
and make
sticky,
noise.
and the teenagers on their phones.
Ugh.
I hear this complaint all the time, and maybe it's just because I go
You're in
to
New York.
weird
It's a
indie
different- there
theaters
are
where
no
people pay
teenagers.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone I'm in a movie theater with is really respectful. And
No, in
enjoys
fact,
the
if I had
cinema.
an Alamo Draft House, I'd probably go to it every week, right? The right kind of
I mean, that's
theater.
the thing is I really enjoy going to movies where I can have a beverage, an alcoholic beverage, and some artisanal popcorn.
Yeah. It felt a little bit to me like old media saying, you got to save the newspapers. But at the same time, I do agree with you, Paris. There's nothing funnier than a comedy where everybody in the theater is laughing uproariously. It's 10 times funnier because of that, right?
This is why we don't have comedies anymore, by the way.
Oh, because there's no movie theaters.
There's the Benito theory of.
Well, no, I mean, comedy, like blockbuster comedies were a real genre of movie.
Yeah, they just don't make them anymore.
Like, production
That's 'cause
companies
we
would
live in
pump
the
out
bad
because
timeline.
they were big blockbusters, and they would get people in theaters.
Right. Where all the movies now are horror movies or dystopias. It's scary.
Well, yeah, because horror movies are one thing that people come out to theaters for still.
Our entire
the
careers.
movies that you're seeing
Are
in
the ones
theaters
people
and get a
see
theatrical release, that is what the market testing has shown people will go out for.
I have to say, though, I prefer a 6-hour miniseries where they don't have to get everything into an hour and a half, and they can really develop something. And often is better than a 2-hour movie. But maybe, I don't know.
I mean, maybe I'll agree with you at some point. I'm still recovering my attention span from decades of social media and things like that. So I think part of the reason why I also like going to the movies is I have to pay attention. And one of the things I found with watching stuff here at home is I prefer to have friends over to watch with me, because then we get like a mini version of that communal
That's
experience
fun.
where we're
Yeah,
all
yeah.
focused and no one is second screening. Because I think
That's
it's really
good.
easy to second or third screen
Yeah.
when you're watching a series by yourself.
No, that's true. You don't go see The Brutalist in the theaters. It is not only is it 3 hours and 20 minutes long, it has a mandatory 15-minute intermission in the middle.
Yeah, I think that's cowardly stuff. I would have watched 4 hours of Oppenheimer, no break.
There's also the fact that a movie theater ticket is like $20 now, which is like, come on.
And the popcorn.
Yeah, that's
My
ridiculous.
God, the price of the popcorn.
And it'll kill you because it's got stuff in it that is nobody knows.
Well, that's
what
okay.
it
I
is.
want it, but, you know.
Yeah, give me the death
RFK
popcorn.
Jr. is going to ban movie theater popcorn. I'm counting on it.
Over my dead body.
Make America healthy again. All right. One more break. Our show today brought to you by Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Enterprises have spent, oh my God, millions, billions on firewalls and VPNs, but that's not made things better. Breaches continue to rise. There was an 18% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks, $75 million record payout last year. And it's only going to get worse, right? Because these traditional security tools expand your attack surface. They give you public-facing IP addresses that are exploited by bad actors, and now more easily than ever with AI tools. And, you know, they struggle to inspect encrypted traffic at scale, which means the bad guys are now compromising you, exfiltrating all your private stuff. VPNs and firewalls also enable lateral movement by connecting users to the entire network. They allow data loss via encrypted traffic and other leakage paths. It's just a nightmare. Hackers exploit traditional security infrastructure using AI to outpace your defenses. I think it's time to rethink our security. We can't let the bad actors win. They're innovating and exploiting our defenses faster than ever. That's why you need Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI. Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI stops attackers by hiding your attack surface, making apps and IPs invisible, eliminating lateral movement because users can only connect to specific apps they're allowed to connect, they're authorized to connect, not the entire network. And it continuously verifies every request based on identity and context. Plus, Zscaler simplifies security management with AI-powered automation. You'll like that. And detecting threats using AI to analyze over 500 billion daily transactions. Look, it's very simple. Hackers can't attack what they can't see. Protect your organization with Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI. Learn more at zscaler.com/ security. That's zscaler.com/security. By the way, I didn't mention this, but Alexis Ohanian is also joining the bid to buy Frank McCourt's bid to buy TikTok.
Yep. Is Frank McCourt a good guy or a bad guy on this? I don't know.
If you live in LA, he's a bad guy because of how he ran the LA Lakers. But I have to say, I feel like he's a good guy in his goals. He wants to make TikTok safer. And he wants to keep TikTok in the United States. They say they have, I don't think they're even close, by the way. They say they have informal commitments of $20 billion for a TikTok deal. And they don't care about the app's algorithm.
Well, then it's not TikTok.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
you're
that's the
right.
thing
I
is
guess
you're
not.
never going to get that algorithm. No sale is because the Chinese government has forbidden the sale of.
Well, that's why they
algorithms for
say it's
platforms
okay.
like that.
We believe that, and if you look up Frank McCourt, he's been funding this new way of doing social that's privacy forward. And it's in his Wikipedia thing. Oh, not that Frank McCourt.
I mean,
It's the
I'm just
same-
curious to see what ends up happening with TikTok overall because the clock is TikTok.
Clock is not ticking. It's not. That's the funny thing. I don't think anything's it's just gonna fade off into the distance.
But I mean, this all opens up all of the companies that are hosting TikTok to huge financial penalties whenever the next administration comes around. Because the statute of limitations.
But will there be a next administration?
You said we're not allowed to talk about politics, Leo.
So Frank McCourt, who is hated in LA because of how he ran the Dodgers, the LA Dodgers. He's written a book called Our Biggest Fight, Reclaiming Liberty, Humanity, and Dignity in the Digital Age. I don't know if he has the expertise to do this, but he has put together, let me see if I can find this here. All this stuff about the Dodgers. That's all anybody cares. Project Liberty, which was designed to fund something they call the DSNP, the Decentralized Social Networking Protocol, open source code. In other words, designed to build a social network that is open. And that's why I guess he doesn't care about the algorithm. He wants to influence the direction taken by technology and its players.
Yeah, it sounds complicated to say the least.
I don't think 20 billion is enough to do
thought.
it.
Yeah,
is the real thing.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you know, I like Alexis. I think his heart is in the right place. So I think if he's in on it, that gives it more credence.
Well, he's always been one of the good guys.
YouTube says it has now more than 1 billion podcast viewers a month. We are not in that list. Actually, I'm sure they include our viewers in there. We have a few million, 70
That's why
million,
we stopped
like
playing
that.
music, because you're on YouTube.
Yeah. In 2024, users watched more than 400 million hours of podcasts every month on living room devices, on your big screen, on your TV.
Hi, everybody.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Hello, couches.
We do have people watching.
Hello, chair, placed askance.
Hello, moon. Oh, no.
Hello,
that's
coffee table.
That's a different. That actually leads me into something that Benito and I have cooked up. 1 month from now will be our 20th anniversary as a podcast network. The first twit was April, I think, 14th. April
24-hour live stream. 24-hour live stream.
All right.
We all get matching tattoos.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea. Do you want to see mine?
I do.
No, I don't do it.
You can moon us.
I would have to moon you to do it. Benito and I came up with the idea because we already had all the old hosts on our 1000th episode. So I think April 13th will be the 20th anniversary twit. And I want everybody who watches our shows to send us a video talking about how you watch. Do you watch on a big screen? Showing us your setup, showing us your smiling face, maybe talking a little bit about how you discovered twit. Share your experience. Do we have it set up an email, Benito? What
do you want them to film this Horizontally or portrait mode?
Do it any way you want.
Okay, no, specify one.
Okay,
Pick one.
do it like you would if you were doing a TikTok. Hi, Leo.
So vertical video.
I watch your show when I'm in the bathtub. See, something like that. That'll be
okay,
good.
Great.
Okay.
Okay,
how are
we'll
we
need to set up. We'll need to set up like an email or something. I'll talk to Patrick.
Shoot, I wasn't even
about
thinking
that.
about it.
Yeah.
I launched into the request, and I didn't have a way to do it. Well, if you're in the club, you can upload it to Discord. Just put a link, upload it to iCloud or Microsoft's OneDrive or Google Drive, and just put a link in the Discord. That would be good too. You can DM me in the Discord. Because it'd be fun to watch how people watch, but I think it's changed a lot. I think people do sometimes now watch on their TV set.
That'll be really fun. So what are you going to do with those videos?
Oh, nothing. No, I'm going to play them on the show. We'll do a story.
Like a special episode for it?
Now here's Jerry from Des Moines, Iowa. How do you watch, Jerry? And we'll show the video. It'd be fun. We honored all the people who started the network with us, but who really counts is the people who enjoy our shows, who watch and listen. That's what we do it for. So it's a chance to see them.
Who is Club Twit member number one? Who's Club Twit member number one? Well, I mean, who paid for it? Who's the first $7?
Who was the first paying member?
Yeah, who's the first paying member of Club Twit?
Patrick, you would know that. He's checking. He's going to tell us
I think
who
that we could play people's Twit videos between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. on the 24-hour live stream. Listen, I'm filling out the slots, guys.
It's very hard. You have to entertain people while you're exhausted. You really want to do that?
I think it would be kind of fun. We could get a bunch of people to take up shifts.
She's young. We used to be.
I romanticize these sort of things. It just seems fun to do a 24-hour live stream.
I'm up all night anyway, so why
I remember what having that kind of energy was like. Wow.
The good old days.
Old Benito.
Listen, I'm one of the sleepiest people I know. It's not that I have a bunch of energy. I just think it would be kind of fun to participate in a 24-hour live stream.
Well, no, okay. I'm going to take it on advisement. I would too. Lisa,
we could game for a couple of hours.
I could just leave the lights on and
Jeff could talk about LATimes for an hour.
Hey, yeah, 3 hours at least.
3 hours. Listen, we got a good half of the day figured out already.
Jammer B says if we do another live stream, he's coming down.
Whoa, that's a problem.
Well, he
Burke
was instrumental.
Could show out his little saws for a couple of hours.
His saws? He has special saws?
Burke always has a saw, right? A chainsaw?
No, that's Elon Musk you're thinking of. We did start 20 years ago. We used Skype, first for audio, then for video. Now, here we are 20 years later. It's all over. Bye-bye, Skype. We hardly knew ye.
Rip. When's the last time
you know what
guys
Skype is,
Skype?
Paris?
I used Skype. I'm not that young.
Microsoft is going to take all the Skype users and turn them into Teams users. That's not going to happen.
No. I don't like Teams.
Pre-Microsoft Skype was amazing.
Jammer B confirms Burke does have multiple saws. I'm not crazy.
Oh, first paying member of Club Twit is Seth Graham. Seth, are you still with us?
Still an active member, says Patrick.
We salute you.
Seth, wow. Still
See, we could have 1 hour interview with Seth Graham.
I think
I'm filling it out.
We can get him on. Let's try to get him on.
Seth, we'll get you on. I want to thank you and honor you.
If you're listening to this episode.
Anything else in the...
Can we talk about the LATimes stupidity?
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
What is he doing?
So one of the hot new things in journalism right now is what if we put AI on the news articles and that will somehow equal profit? And for the LATimes, that turned out poorly, Jeff, if you want to explain.
Well, it wasn't on the news articles. What they did, what he's promised to do is to use AI to determine bias. This is Patrick
Oh
Soon-Shiong,
my God.
the owner. But
So
then
every opinion piece in the LA Times from now on will have a little
Not
bias
even
meter.
opinion pieces, right? It's
well,
news
it's just now
articles
it's
as
opinion,
well.
but he'll do
It
that.
says opinion,
Yeah.
editorials, commentary, and more.
But here's the other thing he did that I didn't know he was going to do, is that to both sides things, he has the AI respond to the opinion piece.
Yeah, it's
And
a
makes
little.
a point of saying that no human touches the AI, so it just goes up. So they had the AI defending the KKK.
Which I'm sure it did with confidence and hallucinations.
So I put up a PDF of an example of this because you can't do it if you use archive.ai or dot whatever.
PH, yeah. So
Thanks.
where did you put this?
It's on the, if you look at the rundown, I put a lot of care into the rundown today.
If you click on Jeff's little
Line
icon, it'll
89.
take you to it.
Jeff's little icon. He has a little icon.
Well,
Do you
'cause I'm
know
on
how
that
Google
line.
Docs works?
Oh, I see. So I click on his icon, and then what? It highlights everything he wrote. I didn't know that.
No.
20 years, and I still didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Well, you know,
Okay,
if you click
here's-
on the little Jeff headshot up
I
top,
did.
it
I
takes you
clicked
to
on
where
his head,
cursor is. Yeah.
and it highlighted the article.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great
So line
documentaries
89.
reveal history's truth. Unregulated AI threatens to distort it. This is
So
a
now you go
voices
through
column
the blah, 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 blah,
written
blah,
by
blah.
humans, right? Rachel,
Yes.
Stephanie, and Jennifer. Okay.
So you go down
Scroll
to the bottom.
bottom.
I didn't capture the KKK one; it was gone. So keep going.
Okay.
Keep going.
Insights is the AI.
So stop there.
This
Go
is
up
a
little bit. Go up.
center
You're
left.
the worst scroller. Go up a little bit. Yeah. So it says here that it aligns with a center left point of view. Sorry, you were right. And then now go below perspectives, plural. Ideas expressed in this piece, and then different views on the topic. So, for example, it says that AI could democratize historical storytelling, allowing creators to visualize poorly documented events, that is to say, make them up, or marginalize perspectives. Tools like Midjourney enable amateur historians to generate images of ancient Rome.
I don't want to see it. Nope. That's fake.
Nope.
On the other hand, regulation risks stifling innovation is seen in creative applications like
There's the
restoring
Leo
Val
bot.
Kilmer's voice for Top Gun Maverick, right? Because he can't speak. So in Top Gun Maverick, they used an AI to generate his voice, right?
So this
I
is
mean,
generated
similarly,
by Perplexity.
They used AI to do Anthony Bourdain's voice despite protests
That was
from
weird.
his estate.
No, that was creepy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although it was saying things he said, it was just simulating the voice because it was actual quotes from him. Now, here's my thoughts on this. This is just a way of ginning up more crap to fill up the pages of the LA Times.
But he's also
right?
trying to do this thing where he wants more balanced opinions.
Yeah.
I'm just curious as to what sort of money the LA Times is paying for Perplexity and how that compares to the salaries of the journalists they've laid off for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they use Perplexity for this?
It's credited there, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Because that's what I use for my stories.
And those are never
Interesting.
wrong, of course.
Well, okay, so generally Perplexity's right, is accurate and reliable, and because it gives you footnotes, as this LA Times Insights does. I was trying the other day, and it was extremely frustrating. I have this idea. I wanted AI to take the spreadsheet you've seen it, of all the people who've been on our shows, make a list of everybody's name, and then how many times they've been on, what dates they've been on.
That's the kind of scraping it can do pretty well, isn't it?
I thought, oh, this is going to be great. It thought everybody was on in the year 2023 for some reason. So I said, well, the dates range from like 2005 to 2025. And of course, AI does this. Oh, you're right. I just noticed that too. So let me give you another list. And then they were all from 2024.
Have you tried messaging it? Please, I make a lot of points about how you can do everything on my podcast. You've got to come through for me.
It did bring home to me. Now, probably there is a way to do this. I don't know.
Yeah, I
But
know
it brought home
journalists
to
are using
me.
it to scrape data like crazy.
Yeah, I would think that it seems to me that should be something it can do, especially since I'm giving it the source material, right? It says all
I wonder if it's something to do with the way that the date data is stored in Google Sheets, because I know sometimes when I'm copying over columns of dates from like one sheet to another, something happens with how it was stored to where it gets all weird, or all the dates are the same one in the paste.
Really? Yeah, it's a little strange.
Dates
Did you tell
being
it line one column E always has the date?
Yes.
You did? Wow.
Yes.
Still
I was very specific in the prompt. Part of the is because we are looking at little chunks that are smaller than the actual chunks the AI's LLM is looking at. So that's why I can't tell you how many R's in strawberry. It doesn't see the word strawberry or R's for that matter. Patrick says, I have a page on our system that will show all the guests and sort by number of appearances, Leo. Thanks, Patrick. It's just
he
a
doesn't
simple
want to
SQL
hear
query.
that.
I don't understand why you're making this so hard. All right.
How many trees were burnt for that, Leo?
I don't know, because I spent most of an afternoon beating on the thing. Yeah, I know we have an API, Patrick. That was what actually came to me, is I thought I should probably just query the database. It would
Patrick.
be, but yeah, or ask Patrick. Yeah,
A human being in your database?
Oh yeah, we have. We did the right thing when we created it some years ago. But anyway, somebody's saying in the Discord, and I think this is kind of interesting. I just want the facts, man. I don't want balanced opinions. I just want facts. Report the news and give me the facts of the story without opinion.
Is that Ant? That's what Ant says.
No, I know Ant likes that, but no, it's Trust No One in our Discord. What do you think?
I agree.
It's not really possible, though, right?
Well, I mean,
everything's got context.
every article has a writer that has their own biases and ways that they're seeing the world.
Like, it's something people always say that's like, it's actually impossible. Like, that's not a possibility.
Yeah, it's because humans have bias, but maybe an AI could do it.
Reflects perspective.
Right. And actually, you think you want just the facts, but you really don't. You need more than just the facts. So Patrick Sun-Shung, who owns the LATimes, is a physician, a surgeon, a scientist, an inventor, a technologist, and a philanthropist.
Just always good at nothing.
He is the CEO of a holding company devoted to the transformation of healthcare and using artificial intelligence to win the war against cancer and Alzheimer's. How's that going?
He's liking RFK Jr., so.
Is he?
I'll leave that there.
Yeah. He has 230 patents. And is obviously a big fan of AI. We'll see. I mean, if the readers of the LATimes love it, then maybe it was a good thing.
You should rename it the AI Times.
The AI Times. Okay. We're going to wrap this up pretty quick here. So, yes, Jeff, you put a lot of wonderful, wonderful energy into this. What would you like me to, what should I bring up? Timnit Gebru's post.
That's a good one.
On LinkedIn, where she says, there is says it in caps. She is, of course, we should mention, the former Google ethicist who was hired by Google to help them with ethical AI, but then fired when she, Margaret Mitchell, and was it Emily Bender wrote
Emily
the
Bender
Stochastic
and the
Parrots article.
Beetle, I always forget her name.
Yeah, the fifth Beetle. She says, by the way, Timnit was fired then after that for having the temerity to imply that Google's AI wasn't perfect in every way. She says, there is no such thing as an AGI, and attempting to build it is a eugenicist power centralization project that no one should support. I actually don't disagree with that.
Yeah, and she said at the beginning, and caps and lowercase, she says the Transformers and what they were designed for, she remembers. She didn't remember anybody talking about artificial general intelligence until OpenAI, this is why I asked Gary this, came on the scene and started talking about large language models as stepping stones toward AGI. Most natural language processing people I come across were talking about creating pre-trained models the way we had ImageNet pre-trained models in computer vision. I don't remember any of them talking about AGI. But people decided to follow this trope now, and so she's constantly screaming it, and I'm agreeing. And Gary says that he came up with his definition for the sake of the bet, but I don't think there's any clear definition out there. And Eric Schmidt in the Wall Street Journal goes on about the changing definitions of AGI as well. And so we're constantly seeking a MacGuffin.
Yeah. Her piece that she points to is called The TESCREAL Bundle, Eugenics and the Promise of Utopia Through Artificial General Intelligence. This is what you've been talking about. And that's, by the way, with Emil Torres. Is he the fifth Beatle?
They are. No. They worked with Timothy on this.
Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I don't disagree with it. It definitely seems like the people pushing AGI are pushing another agenda as well.
That's what I'm trying to say. And the agenda is eugenicist.
Yeah. Paris, anything?
I thought this was kind of cool. The New York City subway is piloting a program to use Google Pixels strapped to the subway cars to listen to track defects using AI.
Okay, that seems okay. I don't dislike that.
Listen, anything that helps these poor trains run marginally faster is good for me. And this seems to be one way to help detect potential breakdowns in cars or service without having a bunch of human inspectors having to walk the tracks every day. Seems great.
This is the stuff that AI is for. Like these tiny little jobs that get no love, that no one really cares about. But
too much data.
This is the stuff. This is the stuff that it should be doing.
Yeah.
How many, did they say how many they're going to?
Let me try and get here.
That's a
you know
pretty
who does
picture
care
of the
about
subway.
it?
Who?
New York City Transit Assistant Chief Track Officer Robert Sarno, a 14-year veteran of the MTA, who, in order to help train this AI model, basically threw on some noise-canceling headphones and listened through 5 to 10-minute snippets of track noise to sort regular subway din from audio signatures of track treble. So he'd listen to it and mark down loose joint, loose bolt, rail defect when he hears like a certain shake. And he, by himself, hit an 80% accuracy rate with just hearing this. But that was after 14 years of work. And so it's important, I think, to be able to train these systems to do that sort of work so that people like him can actually work on like fixing the problems rather than listening to videos or audio on the train in order to hear if a bolt is maybe going to come loose.
Yeah. Wow.
Which we want them to hear. 6
Google Pixel smartphones hitched free rides on 4 subway cars. I guess you don't need that many. I mean, you just got to go over the track. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Kind of interesting.
And of course, there actually were 7, but one of them got stolen. I'm joking.
Did it? I wouldn't be surprised. No, nobody steals pixels. If it had been an iPhone, that would be another matter. Hey. YouTube has introduced Premium Lite. You don't have to now buy YouTube Music to get YouTube Premium. For $8, you can just get YouTube without some of the ads, not all the ads. They don't promise to remove all the ads for your $8. I did say that I was going to talk about Manifest v3. I got pushed out an update to Chrome. I imagine most of you did as well. That without a word or a hint or anything, just deleted the ad blocker I was using, uBlock Origin, because it's not compatible with an update to Chrome called Manifest v3.
Serves you right.
Google.
Well, I will not be updating that until I switch over to Firefox. So what are you using now?
Let me just say why Google says this is a good thing. They say this, in order for an ad blocker to work, it has to look into the pages you're on, and that's a security problem. They don't want third-party extensions to have those permissions. Gorhill, who created uBlock Origin, has created a light version that still works under Manifest v3, but doesn't work as well. So I switched to a new browser called Zen Browser that is kind of it hits my sweet spot. Let's put it that way, because
Oops, all AI?
No AI involved. In fact, there's no AI. It's an open source project. Firefox uses a Firefox Blink engine, but it has a UI like my favorite now abandoned browser, the Arc browser. The browser company decided that there was no money in making their Arc browser, so they're moving on to something else that does have more AI in it. So I get really what I wanted. The Arc browser is based on Chromium, so I get a Firefox-based browser with the Arc UI, and yes, uBlock Origin continues to work just fine.
And the browser they're working on is really interesting. Jason and I talked about it last week. It expands, for example, the cursor. This is how AI is going to be used.
You're talking about the browser company's new tool. It's an agentic browser. Yeah.
Right. So you can be, your cursor becomes a window onto functionality about this that you're pointing to. It's really interesting.
Yeah. This is all the rage now in AI is agentic, where the AI does things for you. And if you give it control of your browser, it can find the best porn. Anyway, I like the Zen browser. And that's what I'm using. It's free.
All roads lead to porn.
As usual, yeah. What else?
The internet is a series of tubes filled with porn.
That's disgusting.
I bet they are quite sticky.
Yeah.
Masnick, this is important for Paris to know. Line 149, Michael Masnick is coming up with a new podcast called Objectionable, a limited term series about, guess what?
Section 230.
Section 230.
It's Otherwise Objectionable is the name of it.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I screwed that up.
He has, of course, been a great defender of Section 230, probably more than anyone else, including this page that he created. Hello, you've been referred here because you're wrong about Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. He wrote that 5 years ago, but it still holds. It's still good. It's still true. Yes, Mike's been doing more podcasts, which explains why he's hard to get on our shows, I guess. Good. I'm glad to hear it. The Competitive Enterprise Institute is sponsoring this as a documentary podcast exploring the past, present, and future of Section 230.
Between Mike and Jeff Kossoff, those are the two, and our friend here on the show. They're trying to defend 230.
Chris Cox, Ron Wyden. Yeah. Oh, Kathy Ellis is on it. Oh, good. These are more people.
I'm saying she's a defender as well.
Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely.
The single biggest threat to free speech in this country is the power of big tech.
It's time to fight back.
That was the wonderful Ted Cruz talking there.
It's now time to repeal Section 230.
Section 230.
Section 230.
Section 230.
And of course, Elizabeth Warren is also in there. It is a bipartisan attack on what is the most important piece of legislation with regard to the internet ever. And Mike will defend it, I'm sure. Good. I'll have to listen to that. techdirt.com. I guess a little politics. One of the things that is being dismantled right now by Doge is 18F, which you may have never heard of, but like the U.S. Digital Service, which has also been kind of replaced by Doge, 18F were coders, were technologists who helped the government implement websites and other technologies, most famously the IRS's direct file system. Now, direct file is still running, but everybody at 18F has been dismissed. So the question is how long it will keep running. This is just a part of a continued assault by Elon Musk, Doge, and the president on science and on technology and how it makes any sense at all to get rid of these groups that helped American government be efficient, work better, and serve the people. I don't know. I don't understand. I really don't. But at least we're going to have a cryptocurrency strategic reserve. Thank God. Thank God, right?
Have our Dogecoin.
All right. I think unless you tell me that there's something we got to say here, I'm just looking through it. There's, of course, so much good stuff.
You want to spend $100 million buying AI.com?
$100 million. The information
this was a great feature my colleague Akash did this weekend.
Larry Fisher, a veteran Brooklyn domain broker, a.k.a. a domain squatter, hopes to convince the
He's
likes
not
of
the
open-
squatter. He's the
he's the
intermediary between the squatter. And a fun detail in this is the person who owns AI.com, who declined to be named or interviewed for the article, did, I believe, send a written response back to my colleague Akash's inquiries, described themselves as being very lucky that they bought this domain years and years ago, not because of anything related to AI, but because it was their initials.
Damn, I wish I were named Adrian Ignacio. Fisher, a 62-year-old Brooklyn native, says, if somebody's looking to sell a top-tier domain, I'm the guy they call. I have a reputation for being able to get the best price.
And he is from Queens, so it's the right.
Yeah, I hope that's all right there. He sold, let's just give you some of his greatest hits, according to Akash. He sold skincare.com to L'Oreal. He sold teams.com to Microsoft. Chat.com to HubSpot, who then flipped it to OpenAI and made a little money. I'm sure that really grinds his gears.
Yeah. To begin attracting attention to prospective buyers, the owner has adopted a clever sales tactic in the last few months, continually redirecting AI.com to different sites. For a while, it went to ChatGPT's website. These days, it goes to DeepSeek. And the ploy has had an amusing ripple effect. A bunch of different news outlets like TechCrunch and things like that have written a slew of headlines mistakenly claiming that OpenAI bought AI.com or XAI bought AI.com.
I got a deal for you, August Ignacio. Why don't you point it to twit.tv and fool them all?
No one will ever see that coming.
No one will ever see that coming. 100 million.
I think Paris had a Brooklyn accent to your Queens accent.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Ron Bergman, a Wharton School associate professor who focuses on digital advertising, says, I don't think it's going to get to 9 figures of value, but if it does get there, I think it's a good sign.
Ladies.
That's a deal breaker, ladies. I think that's a good sign that we may be starting to get back into a .com bubble.
A bubble. It's a bubble.
That's a bubble, ladies.
It's a bubble, ladies. Initially, so he did buy a lot of. He was snapping up domains in 1995. He bought brothers.com, sisters.com, and stockquotes.com. My wife put her foot down. If I couldn't turn this into something that generated cash flow, it was over.
Honey, you got to sell your domains. You got too many of them.
I just sold Portuguese.com for $3,000. He sold Return.com for a low 6-figure sum after buying it for $100. That put him back on top and officially on a roll. You know, Akash did a great job of capturing this guy. I love it. I love it. All right, $100 million, AI.com. I mean, I don't know how much did OpenAI pay for Chat.com?
We don't know.
HubSpot bought it for $15.5 million and flipped it almost instantly. Oh, he got equity. Oh, big mistake, buddy. He got stock.
Over the years, Fisher himself has developed an attachment to certain names he's unwilling to part with. He grew up an avid follower of pop art, but could never afford his favorite artist's work. So in 1997, he bought AndyWarhol.com and has been sitting on it ever since, despite several attempts from the Andy Warhol Foundation to claw it back. It's my painting. It's my artwork, he said. The site is the same Warhol fan page Fisher set up 26 years ago.
Yeah, it looks like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Wow. Andy Warhol. It's proudly powered by WordPress, though. So
it is indeed.
Yeah, yeah. He's vowed to keep it as is. After scores of deals, Fisher said he's addicted to the feeling of outdoing himself, driven by the high he gets from closing 7- and 8-figure deals. It's just like when my kids are born. It's the same feeling. As we finished dinner and got up from the table, I asked how he'll feel when AI.com sells. Triplets, he said. Nice job, Akash. Good story.
Well done.
Good
Who says
story.
technology news is boring?
Triplets.
Cold? It's human.
Triplets. Deutsche Telekom and my favorite AI company, Perplexity.
They're doing interesting things.
They're going to create a new AI phone priced at under $1,000. This was announced at Mobile World Congress. Low-cost headset. I don't think that's low cost. Created in close. It's called it'll have a new assistant on it called Magenta AI. You know, Mark Gurman, who writes about Apple for Bloomberg and is very connected, has said that Apple has fallen way behind on AI, Apple Intelligence for its smartphone. There may be an opportunity here.
Nobody's really figured out the AI device yet. Have we seen, humane and all that failures? Google has certainly got AI on its. But Perplexity is a very clever company.
I love Perplexity because I can use different models. For $20, I get to use all the other ones that I'm also paying $20 for foolishly. One thing Apple did do, though, they put an action button on their phone, and now ChatGPT will talk to me. Actually, I think this is Perplexity I'm going to talk to here. Let me see.
Want to have an existential debate?
What is a nihilist?
A nihilist is someone who believes in nihilism, a philosophy that rejects or denies the existence of meaningful aspects of life. Nihilists often believe that life is meaningless, that there are no objective moral truths, and that traditional values and beliefs are unfounded.
No,
this
that's wrong.
perspective can lead to a sense of skepticism and pessimism about the world and human existence.
That's not wrong, Benito. That's Paris.
I mean,
that's not really the definition.
Is it?
Of
It's not.
though.
Do you
not
feel
really.
It's
yeah,
a
the
little off.
two members of the optimistic nihilist club would disagree with you.
Oh, you both are optimistic nihilists.
He's a card carrying member. I'm just a renegade.
That's hysterical. It doesn't have any. You know what? It doesn't have any footnotes as to the source on this. That's interesting. But if I ask it, it will generate a picture of, this is maybe where it got the information from. Some pictures of nihilists. Those people look hopeless. All right, let's take a final timeout and come back with your picks of the week. I feel bad that Jeff missed my pick of the week last week. Have you been playing Bracket City?
I've been playing Bracket City. I've sent Bracket City to friends.
Isn't it great?
What am I now? I'm like mayor. I'm like editor in chief.
Each time it's different because it's how efficient you were in solving it, right?
I am high ranking in Bracket City at this point.
I know that a word for a bunch of fish is a school. Jeff, did you see this? You had left.
I couldn't figure it out.
Event with chaperones is a dance. A dance. Let's see. What are that? Cows and what is that? What are those emojis? I don't know.
Hold on, I've got to pull it up on my screen in a big
kind of stand where you are upside down.
Cowboy.
Handstand.
Oh, cowboy.
Is this the new Wordle? Is this going to piss me off?
Well, the story is great because this was
you
creative.
got to figure out everything in the brackets to then make something that connects to. Once you reduce all of them down, it gives you something relating to this day in the past. It's really cool.
What? I have a life.
No, you
this
don't.
Is a word. Do you do crosswords?
No, I hate them.
Oh, well, you wouldn't like this then.
No.
Hand is the next one.
Okay. I put creek for like a river but smaller, but that was wrong. Something to do with the hand or monies. You do the hand or money.
Vent is the next one.
Wait.
Vent, release frustration. You don't have to do it in order. Invent as a phrase.
We'll get there.
Like a river is a Jurassic Park.
That's why I hate this. I hate this.
If you have it, you might rip one.
Suck me in.
If you have it, you might rip one. Material associated with biker gangs, leather. Glossy leather for fancy shoes, patent. If you have it, you might rip one.
See?
Rip what?
Jammer B says gas, but I don't think that's it. Like a river,
I don't think you
smaller.
rip gas is the thing.
No,
like a river, but stream. Yeah, stream is where we go.
I tried crick. Stream of social
Feed.
media content.
And the next one is meter.
Feed.
Or feed. Feed. No, feed is first. Meter
Feed.
is after you put feed in. Sorry, I'm reading ahead.
You're reading ahead. You feed a parking one.
We're not. It's not yellow yet,
Yes.
so we can.
If you have it, you might rip one. Invent as a phrase and something to do with a hand or money. We'll leave this as an exercise for the reader, but I just wanted to make sure Jeff saw that so he could hate it.
Oh, coin is the middle one. Invent.
Isn't it fun? They're
It's
not
really
hard.
fun. I'm obsessed
So the
with
story
it.
is this guy owns a bar and he does trivia contests. He loves puzzles and he just made this up. It's free. It's online. And the real question, and we should have a pool, is how long before the New York Times buys this, right? Because that's clearly what's going to happen.
6 months.
Wait, so maybe we should buy it first and then sell it to the New York Times.
We could flip it.
Maybe we should get that domain guy in on it. He seems to be really.
He'd be our agent.
Ooh.
A broker.
Don't you think he's probably got a few calls from people who want to do that exact thing? All right. Just real quickly, a couple of things I'd like to ask of our fine audience. First of all, if you're not yet a member of Club Twit, we would love you to join the club. It helps us defray expenses. It keeps the show on the air, helps us grow. We're always hanging by a thread. We have lots of advertisers now, I'm happy to say, but it still only covers about 95% of our costs. The club makes up the difference. If you're not yet a member, $7 a month, ad-free versions of all the shows, because I wouldn't charge you and then show you ads. That's terrible. You also get access to the Club Twit Discord, which is a great hangout place for lots of fun events, including, by the way, tomorrow, our photo thing with Chris Marquardt, Photo Time. That'll be 1 p.m. Pacific. $7 a month, twit.tv/clubtwit. Please join the club. We'd love to have you. And access to Leo's OnlyFans account. Is that... I don't get it.
I mean, this is an OnlyFans of some sort. It's just not pornographic.
Right. Actually, there are OnlyFans that are not pornographic. There are plenty of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's
But
a lot
not
of
us.
there are a lot of Pornhub channels that are non-pornographic because you get more
because it's got a good algorithm.
Hey, we should stream on Pornhub, guys.
There's a woman.
It's got
Yeah, we've covered it before.
Oh yeah, we talked about it. Yeah. Never mind. The other thing I want to ask you, whether you're a member or not, leave a review if you would, especially on Apple's iTunes. We've been review bombed in the past. It's brought our numbers down. But if you like the show, share that on whatever platform you like. I don't, it's okay with me if we are 4.1 or whatever. But advertisers do care. And so that helps us a lot. So just another little thing you can do. Just go to iTunes or whatever you. I'm on Pornhub? Are we streaming on Pornhub? Or somebody just make that? I think it's a joke. I hope it's a joke.
Very disappointed users out there.
That's the kind of thing you're missing if you're not in the club.
So related, in the early days of blogging, I had blog ads.
Yeah.
And Henry Copeland came up with a new format. It was a big ad, and we called it the Big Ass Ad. And so I posted that I was going to have the Big Ass Ad. And I haven't checked it in a couple of years, but for many years, if you searched for Big Ass,
you'd get that. That's smart.
Well,
That's
no, it
very
wasn't.
smart.
It was either definition. I wasn't very happy that I was associated with Big Ass.
On the other hand, you generated a lot of traffic there. Maybe you should have registered bigass.com.
I should have. Yeah.
Yeah. Larry Fisher would be on the line. Jeff, give us. Oh, I start with Paris. I'm sorry, Paris. Your pick of the week.
What are you doing?
Yeah. What am I doing?
I saw this come across my Blue Sky feed recently. Have you guys ever heard of the Vintage Computer Festival?
Yes.
I'm thinking of going this year.
Is it in New York?
It's in New Jersey, like an hour and a half drive from me in a month. It seems really fun.
Yeah.
It's in Wall, New Jersey. Jeff, do you have any recommendations for me to check out New Jersey in the hour and a half drive from New York
I'll
to
look up some
Wall?
things for you.
Let me know.
Where is Wall? We have 500 towns in New Jersey. I always forget where they are.
I couldn't tell you. It's at the Info Age Science and History Museum, if you know that. But it seems really fun. There's going to be a lot of, there's going to be computer classes where you can learn to Intro to Cocoa and Cocoa Basic, and then you can play around on old computers. There's also going to be like a huge marketplace for vintage computers, and I don't know, it just seems like a fun little event.
There's
I'll buy myself
food.
a PDP-8.
There's vendors. April 4th through 6th at the Info Age Science and History Museums on Marconi Road in New Jersey, Mall, New Jersey. That's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I know about this. I'm not sure why. I feel like people who are on our shows involved. But
yeah, I would.
Yeah. With support from the Computer History Museum, which I do know a little bit about.
It says the theme is the sound of vintage. What does that mean?
Listen, I couldn't tell you. Probably that.
Yeah, modem sounds.
Yeah, modem sounds, disk sounds, boot up sounds, that kind of thing. The sounds of vintage. Jeff Jarvis, pick of the week.
Well, I should, a late breaking one here. Underline 163. You asked for people to show themselves how they watch us. Well, Meme Artist
showed us
how they're watching us.
There,
on
look
TV.
at that. Look at that. In the garage or whatever. Yeah, you could post it on. Actually, that's actually a better idea than sending it to us. Post it on Blue Sky.
Oh yeah, add us on Blue Sky. That's the
add us on Blue Sky. That's what I should have said.
Videos less than 60 seconds on Blue Sky.
Well, that's good. We don't want them too long.
Yeah.
Mime Artist is in the UK, and thank you if he says he's going to do a video for us.
Wow, it's late there. That's
staying up
great.
late. That's very sweet.
You'll be an integral part of the 24-hour live stream.
Yikes. Yikes, schmikes.
And then Amazon's delivery drones are grounded in College Station, Texas, line 142.
Because it scares the boydies.
And the dogs.
Well, it scares humans, too. What about the humans?
Several times an hour, an Amazon Prime air delivery drone would noisily emerge about 800 feet away, just past a line of trees behind Smith's home.
Aye.
Neighbors began calling it the fleet flying chainsaws.
Yeah, that's kind of what they sound like.
Like imagine if you come from a modern war-torn part of the world and you hear a drone sound.
PTSD.
That's PTSD. Yeah.
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 It's a good point. It's a very good point.
So they got quieter ones and so on, but they're pulling back.
All right.
That's a problem.
All right. I thought I had a pick, but I can't find it. So I guess I'll just use that browser as a pick. And a reminder, I am leolaporte.me on Blue Sky.
Sorry.
You can mention me and post how you watch. That's another way you can do it. Would love that. That's really nice. Then thank you to all in advance. All right, everybody, we're done. We're through. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Intelligent Machines. We are setting the clocks forward on Sunday, so the next episode will be it'll be the same time from our point of view, which is 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, but it's 2100 UTC. 2100
UTC never forgets. They don't let us forget about it.
Our guest, be there on time. Our guest will be Ray Kurzweil, the man who came up with the term intelligent machines and the singularity. We'll talk with Ray about that. He says we're about to merge with the machine. We do this show. I told you the live time because we do stream this show. Of course, if you're a club member, you can watch in the Discord, but also on YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, X.com, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Kick. So you can watch live, and if you're watching live, we can chat with you live because I see the chats right here on my screen. After the fact, on-demand versions of the show at twit.tv/twig. If you go there, there's a link to the YouTube channel. Great way to share little clips, and of course, we are. And leave a review, by the way. If you go to your favorite podcast player, or you go to iTunes or Google Play Store or whatever, make sure you leave a nice review. And subscribe. That way you'll get the show automatically as soon as we're done cleaning it up. Because Gary said a few bad words. Hey.
Did Gebru was in the chat. Did Gebru notice when this was happening?
Gebru said hey.
In the chat. He was going, hey. What else? I think that's it. Paris Martineau writes for The Information. You should subscribe. It is really, even today, 2 or 3 scoops from The Information. It's a really good source of tech news. Martineau.01 on Signal. If you've got a tip for her, do not use your work phone. Maintain security.
Be smart about
at all
it.
times. Yes. Jeff Jarvis, former professor, not former, always,
emeritus
now and forever.
Always a professor.
He's teaching
Professor
us every
Emeritus.
week.
Yes, for us.
Whether you want it or not.
No, we love it. We do learn. Well, some of us do. I don't, but he is a professor, emeritus professor of journalistic innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at CUNY. He also is at SUNY now. Was CUNY, now SUNY Stony Brook and Montclair State University. Thank you, Jeff. The author of, as you see behind him, The Web We Weave. That's his latest, the Gutenberg Parenthesis magazine.
Paperback.
In paperback.
From CUNY to SUNY, but never loony. Jeff Jarvis.
But is he a human being? I don't know. We'll have to
You'll have to stay tuned for next week of Intelligent Machines to
Dick
find out the
DiBartolo has
answer.
dropped in the chat to remind us that the Giz Fizz is tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific, about 20 minutes from now at gizwiz.tv. Hi, Decky D. I will be back tomorrow for Chris Marquardt, our photo segment. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Remember, Ray Kurzweil next week. We'll see you next time on Intelligent Machines. Bye-bye.